Hello, everybody. Welcome to the original Next Level Gaming Podcast. I am Mike Mullis, aka Stinger NLG. It is a pleasure to have everybody out on a great Sunday night. Hope everyone has had a wonderful weekend. It's hot as hell out here up in Maryland. So hopefully you guys have stayed cool, stayed dry, and everything's been good. Real quick, want to introduce the co-host of the show, Mr. Frankie Aller. What's up, Frankie?
How's it going, man? Just tired.
Yeah, it's been a long weekend, but
Really long weekend.
tired but exciting. And
Yeah,
of course,
I like the random Dreamcast controller you have in the logo.
oh yeah, well that was De Niro, so he's
Smart
in the
man.
chat room. I told him to stick around long enough to see the new intro because I wanted to let him know that how much I appreciated him making that logo for us, that ad.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Matt Jones. Matt, how has your weekend been, sir?
My weekend has been really awesome, and I'm just so excited for the podcast tonight, have an awesome special guest, and it's just going to be an amazing show.
And look, Frankie, he's got his headset on.
He's
No
just
more Apple earphones.
No.
progress, man. It
Progress.
sounds great too.
It does. It really does. All right. So, not to drag this out anymore, I want to introduce a fantastic guest. It's actually our very first. You get to be our very first special guest.
Perfect.
Yes,
No, I
Mr.
like it.
Christian Allen from. Now, I have been trying to make sure I say this right. Serellan.
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 Close.
Damn it!
Close.
I was close.
It
Serellan.
happens all the time. It's actually spelled Serellan because it's a long story behind the name, but I spelled it wrong when I first came up with it. So it's actually pronounced Serellan, but yeah, it happens all the time.
All right. Well, so now from now on, it is Serellan. That is
Surreal.
excellent. So, look, man, I wanted to tell you how much we honestly appreciate you coming on and being with us tonight. I don't typically mark out very much for developers and company execs because I've been around a bit and I've met a lot of them. However, you have been involved in a ton of games that I loved growing up, and so.
Awesome.
This is such a complete honor. It's not even funny. So
Oh, well, thank you very much.
yeah. So you are healed up.
I am. I'm alive. I'm off of the wonderful pain medication that I've been on for the past week. So I'm, I think, have a clear, steady hand to be able to not end my career on a live podcast as I probably would have last Sunday night.
I don't know, man. A painkiller on painkillers would have been an interesting time. But look, you got this Pokemon Go thing has gone too far. You cannot catch them.
Well, what's so funny about the whole thing that happened is that I slipped off this ladder and hurt my back, and my back, it hurt. It was, I bruised myself, and then this is the sign that I'm getting to be an old man, is because what actually happened is I was trying to teach my daughter how to put a grass catcher on a lawnmower, and I was bending over putting the grass catcher off, and I tweaked my rib the wrong way, and it just sent my back into massive muscle spasms. So.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's been my week. So it's I think I'm getting to those age where you can't just shrug off, a hard fall anymore.
No. Well, if it makes you feel any better, you are still younger than we are.
Right on.
I'm 42, so you're still late 30s, right?
I'm months away from the big 40.
All right, so you're still in your 30s. That's all. We just call it that.
Yes. Yeah, I'm in my 30s, early, mid, late 30s.
All right, so thank you. And of course, welcome to. I don't know if you have it open or want to open it, but our chat room. We have such lively, wonderful people in the chat room on the YouTube page, and of course, they love to pick on my age. So, Basin Radio Arcade Podcast says Mike is 82. That's wonderful.
Come on,
Yeah.
Enrique.
Oh, where is this? Where is the chat room on?
So if you open up the YouTube, link,
because
there is a chat room right on the side of it, and you can actually pop that out, so you don't have to watch the video while you're, and you can just hang in the chat room, and if anybody, I guess, wants to ask some questions that that come up, as long as you're not breaking NDAs or anything like that, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I love to answer questions. Again, I mean, there's a certain NDA stuff, but one of the nice things about now being an independent developer is that I can say a lot of things that you wouldn't normally hear from game developers. So it can be interesting. So yeah, YouTube, I see you guys. Oh, it's weird. I'm seeing myself now. That's weird.
You could actually, there's a button there to pop that chat out, and then you can close the YouTube so that it doesn't freak you out. They think you're still on your opiates.
Boom, there we go. Yeah. Especially because there's like a slight delay in the video. So I've got like the one video of me over here in Google and then the other video of me over here. I like to see myself online, but not like that.
Yes, but at least it's clear.
Yeah. So yeah, if you guys see any questions that you want me to answer on the chat, I'll just let you guys call out. If you want me to address it, I'm happy to.
Okay. And I know there's one question that's already come through, and it's something I think we'll get to later. If you're up to, obviously we want to talk about Serellan, and we want to talk about Epsilon. We want to talk about the games that you've got, and of course the things, your kind of path towards becoming an indie developer. But if afterwards, if you want to, hang and talk some gaming industry and some news and stuff, and there's some things we'd love to get your opinion on.
Yeah, happy to. Just as soon as I start slurring my voice, just cut me off.
No, I can't do that. I can't cut off a childhood hero. So
hey, Fallout 4, by the way, represent.
Ah, very nice.
I had Deadpool.
Very nice.
Teenage Mutant Turtles.
There you go.
Turtles. And I got a generic. This is a Sega gamer. I can't remember what E3 I got this at. It's an old T-shirt. I've got a bunch of old T-shirts, and I got to get new ones. So. So if you have any T-shirts from games, or send them along. I'd love to. I'll be glad to rep them.
There you go.
All right. So what you have going on now is Epsilon the game, which is in Steam Early Access, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
So for those who haven't looked at it, who haven't gotten it or tried it, kind of give us an overview of what Epsilon is.
Yeah, so I mean, Epsilon is a squad-based tactical shooter, and those terms have been kind of become loaded in the last few years, as a lot of people have kind of jumped on that bandwagon. But what it means for Epsilon is you're looking at a non-linear first-person shooter with an element of pre-mission planning, intelligence gathering, and then a strong focus on squad command and squad control. So the player that takes their time, utilizes various intelligence gathering techniques, like utilizing security systems to tag enemies and monitor patrol paths and do things like that, and do pre-mission planning, plan out where you want your team to go, what weapons you want them to have, whether you want to go lethal, non-lethal, suppressed, non-suppressed. And then once you're in the actual game, the action phase, commanding your squad. So you have in the current version, you have a 4-person squad, so you can command them to follow the predetermined plans that you come up with during the planning phase, or at any point you can break them off that plan, have them move to locations, set up on doors, breach, secure enemies, do various objectives, and then actually even once you brought them off plan, you can then put them back on plan. So one of the challenges I've always had with games with planning phases is a lot of times you're kind of locked into that planning phase once you start the game, and it's kind of like if everything goes to hell, you kind of just got to quit and make a new plan. This way, with the Epsilon system, you can kind of at any point just have them, fall in on you or do whatever you're telling them to do, and kind of take things down for you. So, Epsilon definitely is focused on CQB combat. And it's also focused on, I think, what I like to say, just a really vibrant art style, something really clean. It's not brown and brown and brown.
We're seeing, and in the screenshots that I'm showing from the website, I'm seeing, we're seeing blues and golds and things of that nature.
Yeah, it's actually interesting, the background on that art style, specifically a lot of the post-processing effects and the color saturation was actually developed for a science fiction game that we were working with a big publisher that I can't say who they are, but they also sell a lot of books. But we were working with them on a game for their handheld platform, and it was called Project Pi. You can actually find a link to it on our website at Serellan.com. But we had developed that art style for that science fiction game, and then after the sci-fi game kind of fell through, we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do, and in talking with the community, obviously our community, specifically my community, is made up of a lot of tac shooter fans. They wanted another tactical shooter, and so we thought, well, what if we combine this kind of science fiction comic book style, I won't say cell shaded because it's actually not cell shaded, it's actually a different kind of effect. It's some complicated name, but combining that with the kind of tactics and tactical options and intel gathering that you want to see in kind of your core tactical shooter. So that's how that all kind of came together into one package.
So is there a story to the game that you can, how much of that you can share with us?
Yeah, so the story of the game is, and there's a little slice of it in the early access version. Specifically, what we wanted to have in the early access was not necessarily a bunch of story points, but demonstrating to the players how we're going to be doing the cinematics, which we're using a literal comic book style. Craig Gilmore did the original the comic book panels for us. I worked with him at Red Storm. He's a storyboard artist at Red Storm, and now he's a storyboard artist on things like The Walking Dead and Revolution and a ton of other shows that you've heard about. So it's kind of hard to find his time because I don't like have Walking Dead money, but when he does have time, he can do panels for us. But we actually animate the comic book storyboards as the cinematic, and then eventually our plan is that'll all turn into a graphic novel that'll come along with the game. And
nice.
Yeah, it's actually pretty exciting for me. Like I actually got to write. I got to write a comic book. It's really cool. And then like a comic book artist, like went and like made a comic book, and it's like this is like kind of me geeking out. Like, yeah, I worked on video games for 15 years, but now I get to make a comic book. This is awesome. So the storyline involves the name Epsilon comes from the actual name of the team is Epsilon, and they're an elite tactical team of this international police organization that is definitely not Interpol, because Interpol is trademarked, and if you use Interpol, then they'll sue you.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you're using Unipol.
Unipol, exactly. They're totally different than Interpol. No relation. Was not inspired by them at all. But actually, the storyline was it's a little darker than the game looks, because it is actually based around sex trafficking and kind of the magnitude of sex trafficking and the impact on how far it reaches into government, and how government, and there's a whole Clancy-esque background of bad guys doing bad things that might happen to be very Jason Bourne taken kind of stuff going on. But yeah, that's kind of the wrap of the storyline, is you're trying to actually take down this sex trafficking organization that is using the conflict in Eastern Europe that is also not based on anything real, nothing with Russians or Ukrainians or anything like that. This conflict in Eastern Europe to fund their terrorist and militant operations by trafficking women and children into sex slavery to Western Europe. So
it makes you want to go after them.
Yeah, I mean, once someone's trafficked a 13-year-old into sex slavery, you're pretty good about putting rounds into the. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's easy. So yeah, trying to do something a little bit different than a lot of the stuff that I've worked on with Clancy stuff, where it was always kind of like, oh, there's a rogue general and they've got a nuclear bomb or some kind of chemical weapon or blah 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 blah, and trying to be like super international, not America rah rah rah. Like none of our characters are actually American, and that's not anti-American. It's just I get sick of writing that stuff and writing those characters. So trying to do something a little bit different and spin it a little bit different, which you have the option to do when you're more of an indie developer than you can when you're AAA. You gotta go by the focus groups and the demographics and all that stuff.
So how's and that's a good segue into this question. How's the early access reception been for something that when I looked at it and the videos and stuff like that, and I'd like to actually get a couple of guys into the early access so that we can give some impressions and such. I got two feels from it, both of which I kind of like. One, of course, is that kind of old style Rainbow Six squad based. When you were talking about making a plan and then having them either execute or moving it on the fly, where you could point to a door and say breach and clear, or you can stop them in their tracks and reroute them somewhere. It seems like that's the vibe I'm getting from it, which is it harkens me back to those kind of games which I really enjoyed, rather than the run and gun. And the other piece to it is, I want to bring one of these back up again. There was one or two specific, and believe me, take this as a high compliment. I got, for the graphical style, tell me, Matt and Frankie, if you don't get a little bit of Half-Life in here.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Do you guys
I see it. Yeah.
You see it?
Yeah.
That feel that I can't put my finger on why I've got that. It's like, especially this particular screenshot here. There's just something that has that Half-Life look to it, and I love that. I mean, you're welcome to get technical with us if you want to tell us how you're pulling that off.
I'd love to. And specifically, I want to call out the two artists, although they're not the only artists, but the two core artists that really developed the scene, what you're seeing there, and the style that led up to it, is that so Mark Nicolino and Deanne McGann, he and she were our kind of core lead artists, and both of them, their background, I mean, it would take me half an hour to go over their entire background, but their core background when I hired them is they were from Zipper. Zipper had gotten shut down by Sony right after kind of we were founded. We hired Mark first, and then Deanne later. Mark's been at Zipper since I think their founding, and worked on like every SOCOM game they worked on. He was at Sierra before that, worked on some of the SWAT games. Deanne's been in the industry forever. She goes back to, oh gosh, I mean, most of the SOCOM games. I mean, they worked on Unit 13. They worked on, gosh, what was their big mag? She also worked at Guerrilla on that Killzone, or Killzone 2, I think. So, I mean, these are just massively talented game artists, and specifically game environment artists. And one of the cool things is that Mark, his background is in architecture, and Deanne's background, well, not background, but one of her core competencies is she's also does a lot of modern art. So if you actually look at that screenshot that you were looking at,
let's bring it back. Bring
it back up, because I want to call something out that's really cool.
Absolutely. I was checking the chat every once in a while just to see if anybody was.
Yeah. So if you look in the center of that shot, there's that object hanging down from the ceiling that's made of a bunch of cubes. Yep. Yeah, that guy right in the middle. And the reason that's there is because when we originally designed the space, I think it was originally going to be a hotel lobby, but Deanne never listens to me, and so she always changes everything from what I originally want, like the hacienda on one level of our past games that turned into like a corporate headquarters, because I was like, I want a hacienda because I think it should be cool. And she's like, and so I drew out this like layout of a hacienda, and she's like, yeah, haciendas are lame, everybody does them. So she like went off and did something totally different. I was like, well, that fucking looks awesome, so I guess we're going with that. But specifically, that piece hanging down was from me as a gameplay designer going, okay, well, when we bring this to multiplayer, and even in single player, that whole central area is a kill zone. Like all those balconies that run around the outside, once you go out in the middle there, you're getting hammered. And then when you're up on the balconies, when we comes to multiplayer, we want to be able to have some cover across, but because everything's glass and clean and pretty, there's not a lot of cover. So we need something to break up the line of sight hanging. We need something in there breaking up the line of sight. And I think my stupid idea was like a big fountain or something, which of course you put a big giant water running fountain in the middle of this room while you're rendering all that crap, you're going to totally kill your frame rate. But because Deanne does modern art as kind of her art side of things, she made this sculpture, and I think it was kind of inspired by, there was this one library or modern art museum in like Dubai that had some kind of, or not Dubai, it was like in Germany, that had some kind of thing similar to it, like hanging from the ceiling with all this stuff. And she just built it out of cubes, and they're all just squares. So it doesn't like make it makes the scene look very complicated, but it doesn't eat up a lot of rendering time. So when you're rendering all this stuff, something like that looks really complicated, but it's actually not, because it's just a bunch of cubes stuck together. So
and they're static.
Yeah, exactly. And so, that's where I think you get a lot of the game designer and a really experienced, awesome game artist and environment artist coming together and saying, like, hey, this is what we need from the gameplay standpoint, and this is what we need from the, and then of course just making the beautiful scene with the reflections and everything, and that's one of the things I'm really hyper proud of. So I have to tell you, the biggest, almost the Half-Life thing was almost the closest, the best compliment I ever got. But the best compliment I've ever gotten on Epsilon was actually before it launched, and I was pitching it to an indie game developer fund. It was actually one of the more famous ones, set up by a bunch of famous people to fund these indie games. And I was trying to get a grant from them to help fund the game, and they said it looked too AAA, that their supporters do not want to support something that looks that AAA. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm just fucked then. So, but
well,
yeah.
I mean, well, if it tells you anything, if you're rolling in the chat room, a couple of people have already said, we want this game. And I can see why. I mean, the gameplay sounds like it gives me what I want. The graphics look just so hyper clean, which is something else that everybody's pining for graphics these days. What's the what's your average base machine that this will run on and look that pretty?
I'd have to look it up on Steam. It's basically the base requirements for Unreal Engine 4. It will run the game at a moderate clip. I'm running. Well, I just upgraded my machine because my buddy at Intel, shout out Logan, sent me a new 980, mainly for the VR stuff, which is hilarious when we get into that. You have to upgrade your graphics card to run your game with no graphics on VR. But anyway, mind blown. But anyway, I'm running 60 frames per second in the editor edition, which is running all the debug stuff. Most of the people that have been having frame rate chugs seems to have out of spec graphics cards. Specifically, we implemented a relatively moderate lighting system that you can see reflected in the screenshots. Not a heavy duty, crazy lighting system, but some people took a hit. But almost all of those people seem to be Europeans, specifically Eastern Europeans that are running machines with, or running off laptops and things like that. But pretty much anybody with any kind of modern machine is going to be running 60 frames out of the gate, and that's pretty cool too. And there's a reason for that in that, obviously a lot of especially early access games that you get, they're chugging along at 15, 20 frames a second. There's kind of three reasons that we could come out the gate with that. Is one, we're using Unreal, which is mature technology, and we have a lot of debugging, and we can find out these things. We're not writing our own stuff. Two, because a lot of what you're seeing from the visuals is actually coming from the post-processing effect. So all the edge lining and various different things that you see on the materials is actually in a post-processing effect that's kind of pre-rendered. So it's not, the textures can be a lot lower resolution than you would normally have to have. So you can have big, broad kind of single tone textures that are much lower memories. They eat up much less of your GPU, your graphics card RAM, than having a lot of little detail textures. And then third is just, again, having experienced environment artists that know how to build. I mean, these are folks that have built everything from PC to PlayStation to Vita, so they know how to build scalable stuff.
Right.
And so we want to have that ability to, at some point, go to console and not have to like retexture everything.
And I was going to ask you about that because I do follow the blogs that you put on Epsilon, and the one that you did in May, you had mentioned that you guys were looking at bringing this to console. Now, the PC version comes out in October still. Is that still your target date?
Well, it's out on Steam right now, so you can
go
early access.
Right.
Yeah.
It looked like the full game. I guess the full game looked like it was headed for October.
Well, we're planning. Let's just say we're planning for the end of the year.
Okay. Okay.
Planning for the end of the year on PC. We had some big uptick right around that March timeframe of interest from some of the console developers or console folks. Let's say the people in the console sphere about bringing Epsilon to console, and I'm still interested in it. Unfortunately, a lot of them didn't really follow up on that. And being an indie dev, I kind of have the choice between, spending my week sending emails to a bunch of executives at a console publisher trying to get something done or working on the game, and so I kind of rotate between those two things.
Sure.
And lately, or being just wasted on OxyContin because I fell off a ladder, but it kind of didn't really move in the direction. I mean, we're prepped for it. We're kind of been struggling a little bit the last month or two trying to bring the latest version of Unreal Online with Epsilon. We've actually got it working now, but it's kind of just broken a lot of tiny little links. So it's basically going through and finding 1,000 different little tiny things that got broken when we upgraded to the latest version of the engine. So once we decide to make that call, it'll mainly be a UI issue, UX issue with the menus, how the menus work with a controller. We've already got a controller working in the action phase of the game. We don't have it working in the planning phase, although I've been talking with some of my buddies that worked on, what was that title? What's the iPhone title? And it was on Steam too. Breach and Clear? Yeah, I think it was Breach and Clear.
Mighty Rabbit Guys?
Yeah, Mighty Rabbit Guys. Yeah, a couple of those guys. They did some planning stuff with the controller, so I'm going to be talking with them and basically probably just, if it went good, I'll probably just copy what they did, because they made a cool little game that's like just that kind of phase of the game. So
nice.
Did Counter-Strike Source, like when you were little, kind of inspire you to make a base game kind of like what you have right now?
Dude, Counter-Strike Source, that's oh my gosh, that's I was playing Counter-Strike before Source existed.
Yeah, right. That was.
No, I started and I guess I could just segue this into kind of how I got into the industry and what I've done in the industry, if you want to.
Yeah, and just to actually real quick, Enrique, you've been phasing it out. Are you in?
Yes, I'm actually in. I had to reboot my computer, so I apologize.
That's all right. So did Christian. So, Christian, this is Enrique Castellanos. He was with NLG for a bit, and then he branched off, and he's the host of the Basement Radio Arcade podcast. And I wanted him to come on and introduce him to you. He's like me. He's a very big fan of your work. So,
absolutely.
Thank you. Welcome.
He started DMing me. I really wish I was in there. So,
I was sort of guilting Mike a little bit.
Yeah, he was guilting me to come in. So he was in the chat room and he was really interested as well. And
awesome.
So yeah, you've got some. You really do have some huge fans.
Absolutely.
And
well,
your pedigree is, like I said, I don't mark out very much for this, but I'm still kind of like in awe that I've got you on this show.
Again, good thing about being independent, I'll talk to anybody. Unfortunately, sometimes that gets me in trouble because I don't vet who I'm talking to ahead of time, and Sometimes I get in trouble that way.
Hopefully Bella vetted you for me.
Yeah,
vetted you
yeah.
for you,
Well,
so,
there's a reason Bella's vetting for me now, because I'm like, hey, Stormfront? Sure, whatever. Let's talk about it. Whoa.
Before we go, I do want to ask just a couple of more quick questions about Epsilon, because this is your big game, and I want to make sure people know as much about it as possible. Cover system. What do we got for cover? Because, and I got to tell you, my favorite cover system, I'm telling you, you are not going to, this is like 6 degrees of Christianity. My favorite cover system of all time is Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter. Being able to, and I'm not kidding, being able to, when I used to play Call of Duty, back when Call of Duty was older wars and good, I would have the hardest time on console because while you could lean in the PC versions, you couldn't in the console versions. And by that time I was much more of a console gamer than I ever was a PC gamer. I had left that kind of after college. So when even Ghost Recon 2 and Summit Strike, which are games I spent so much time on, there was still that you had to kind of shuffle out, shoot, shuffle back, shoot. When Advanced Warfighter came out, and you could hug a wall, and you could turn and fire and then come back to the wall. I mean, I was blown away. I was blown away for many, 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 many reasons on Warfighter, but just the cover system alone was enough for me to say, all right, I can't go back to other games. And games that don't have cover systems, I have a very hard time playing these days.
Well,
go
ahead.
I was just going to say, Epsilon, what's the cover system like in Epsilon, and do you draw from any of those past experiences?
So I think you brought up an excellent point, and it's something that took me many years to learn, starting with Ghost Recon 2, leading through GRA, the course of those years, is that one of the draws of a cover system is the inherent challenges of trying to do lean with a console controller. There's been a few games that have done it kind of well. I want to point to, what was it? Thief did like kind of a lean system or with the controller. But it's so natural on a PC with Q and E to do lean that once you get used to it, it's just like you're there, you're doing it. And although it is funny because one of the challenges that I had on Takedown is everybody complained that the lean was you didn't lean far enough. Well, what I did was we animated the character as much as it would go without his spine splitting in half, and then that's where actually the lean was. And then all the realistic people were like, the lean is useless. And it's like, have you ever actually tried to lean around a corner? Like, God! Like, it just doesn't, your human body doesn't function like that. But hey, you want realism, cool. But don't get me started on realism. I'll start talking about basing max movement speed on a 100-yard sprinter from the Olympics. But that's where I think when you looked at a game like was it Time Splitters that had the first kind of real?
Well,
not Time Splitters.
No, there was an old game from Konami called Kill Switch.
Namco
called Kill Switch.
That's what I was thinking of.
I still have it.
Yeah. And Kill Switch and Ghost Recon is a lot like when I want to say that Gears of War invented cover mode and horde mode, because Kill Switch had cover mode and Ghost Recon had horde mode. Whatever. They have Ferraris, we didn't. That's cool. But I think that one of the things about cover systems in GRA, in Gears of War, in Rainbow Six Vegas, is that they are kind of inherently making up for that the controller issue, even also the distance issue of how far you're sitting between your TV and the finite input event. When you're at your mouse and keyboard, which I'm grabbing right now and you can't see, just I don't know why I'm doing that for effect, but you have such a more
I point a lot. I point into thin air a lot.
You have so much more finite control, and one of the aspects that I used to bring up on Ghost Recon, once we made the switch to third person, is that you didn't necessarily have just as good, depending on your camera angle, you didn't have an exact idea of where your character exactly was. In first person, as soon as your line of sight crosses the edge of that wall, if you're leaning to the right, but you don't necessarily have that control in third person. So that's my long-winded answer as a game designer of saying right now in Epsilon, we're focused on just a lean system. We've got a lean system. And yes, it actually would break your spine if you did it, because when we try to do it realistically and take down, people didn't like it. So we do have the lean system, although it is much improved over our past games. You can lean and move at the same time, those kinds of things. But cover and EQ, what's called EQS, which is a cover system and AI system built in Unreal 4, is something that's one of the reasons I mentioned that we're upgrading, is that we're looking at integrating that system. And Unreal 4 has done a really good job of building in those systems into just the base game engine, especially into the first and third person the viewpoints. That in Unreal 3 wasn't quite there. You kind of had to you could either do Gears of War, and that was your choice, or you could build your own system. Now they've got a much more flexible system, so we're going to be looking at those various different things as we move forward. I mean, one of the things that's nice about early access, and although we haven't been able to get out as many updates recently as I would have liked, but we still are, going out and watching what the community is talking about, getting the feedback, and making notes about, okay, let's change this to this, or let's add this here. It's not just like ship a game and shoot it out and it's done.
Just in general terms, have you gotten feedback on maybe moving to a cover system?
From the PC gamers, not a lot. I think
because they like to lean.
Exactly. They love to lean, even if it's fake lean, like in Call of Duty. Hey. Here's our
this will only be on YouTube later. It's all right.
Yeah. But yeah, again, PC gamers, like I said, it's so intuitive on the keyboard to go Q and E, and I think one of the problems is that if you ever say you're doing a lean system on PC, everybody automatically knows it's Q and E, right? But if you do a cover system on console, we still really haven't gotten a standardized cover system. I mean, everyone works kind of different. So you have to learn it. What am I holding Y and pushing left and right, or am I just pushing up against something? And so I think that'll get there, especially if there'll be a standardized third person, and probably it's going to be whatever Gears does, just because they're the kind of driving force of that kind of stuff. People just kind of adopt that. Back in 2006 when we were working on GRA, it was just kind of like Wild West, like what works? Oh shit, this doesn't work. Okay, try this. Oh shit, this doesn't work. So a lot of different things.
If I remember correctly, it was a button press. It wasn't a toggle. I think it was a button press.
It was a. Jeez. Well, see, the thing is, I went through like 12 iterations of it, so I don't actually remember what shit.
I'm pretty sure it was a single button, and then if you were close enough to the wall, then you turned around and you backed up to it.
Yeah, I think that's what it shipped in GRA, was that it would pop up with the button press once it was available. The original iteration was you just pushed up against the wall, but then it would suck you into cover mode when you didn't want to be in cover mode. So that's why we put in. That's why the team put in the button press, because you'd just be like trying to run along a wall, and you'd want to go around a corner, and it would like suck you into the wall, and then you'd lean around the wall, and then you get shot, and you're all confused.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I seem to remember that's the cover system for Quantum Break. And while I totally love Quantum Break very, 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 very much, that was one of the things that it was a frustration point for a lot of people. Was all I want to do is just run by here, but you touch the corner, and all of a sudden you're up against the corner, and then somebody's coming around to shoot at you, and you didn't want to be there. So I kind of understand that.
That's always the challenge with UX, is trying to detect what the player's trying to do. And if you think about the math when you're doing that kind of stuff, it's like you're going like, well, what's the angle that the player's facing the wall, and what's their acceleration, and then you've got a 10% on control. That's the other thing with controllers, is on controllers you've got a 10% kind of what do they call it, like wiggle room on the stick.
Dead
So
zone.
whereas a mouse, you can track, depending on their mouse sensitivity, you can track, thousands of an inch of movement. But on a stick, like you can't ever, if you're doing something and you want to say, hey, if the stick is 100% pressed, you can't do that because 50% of controllers out there won't ever trigger 100% stick press. They'll only go to some of them will only go to 85, just because in the manufacturing, if they're kind of, they just not, the tolerance isn't there. So there's all sorts of just crazy, stupid shit like that you got to deal with as a game developer. You got to deal with all the Mad Cats, in not that Mad Cats is bad, but all the other people that make controllers. You can't just say, oh well, our game works 100% with Xbox controllers, so if you buy a third-party controller, fuck you can't play our game.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So, how about destructible environment?
Right now, that's not a big focus for us. I mean, it's funny because some of the feedback that I've gotten on Epsilon is how simplistic it is in its current version. But a big focus of ours has been on kind of the tactical intelligence gathering and building tools for the player. And I think a big example of that is doors. And I think if you contrast us with someone like Rainbow Six Siege, who had a slightly larger budget than Epsilon. If you notice, they focused on things like destructibility and their gadgets they can throw up and everything. But it's a tactical shooter with no doors in the entire game. And if you've ever been cleared a building like I have, or if you've ever been through any kind of training, I mean, doors are the most dynamic object that you're ever going to deal with. Well, maybe stairwells and doors. There's so many things going on when you interact with a door in a tactical environment, and that's why we've implemented things like OptiWand, so you can look under the door with your OptiWand. You can incremental open the door with your mouse wheel, so if you just want to open it a little bit and sneak through and just take the shot. You've got vision modes that you can see through walls, unless they have jammers. You can breach doors. You've got locked doors, unlocked doors. You've got security systems to interact with all the doors at once. You can stack your team on doors. You can, stack your team on one door and you go to another door, and then you time them breaching one door so you both come in at the same time and take everybody else.
Kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you can do that kind of. That's what we're more focused on, rather than blowing holes in the walls and that kind of stuff. And honestly, there is a development cost there too, specifically from an art and engineering standpoint of what's that destructibility look like, how's the nav mesh work, how's the AI deal with that. Like you have to have a dynamic. Like our nav mesh is relatively static. We generate it at the beginning of the level, and it doesn't change all that much, so we're not constantly having to update it. But if you're blowing holes through walls, can your squad follow you through the wall? Again, some games that have let you blow holes through walls just get rid of the squad, so they don't have to worry about a squad following you through a wall.
Right.
That's kind of the cost of features. Like, oh crap, we have to dynamically check the nav mesh every millisecond on the machine. You're talking, a lot of CPU power just regenerating the nav mesh every 30 times a second while you're working on the game.
And so this seems to be a lot of PvE kind of stuff, whereas Rainbow Six Siege is a whole lot of PvP, which is, truth be told, why I kind of passed on it for the moment, because my competitive days are over. So I love. Yeah, Enrique will tell you I can't. Joe in the chat room will tell you I'm getting better at Halo 5, but I'm still not.
Join my group. Let's go play some Slayer, dude. It'll be awesome.
You are dude. You are welcome in any time.
I can learn.
I have got to introduce you to our stream team.
I'll be terrible. All I've been playing is Fallout for like a year.
All I do is contribute to the bottom line, so don't feel bad.
I think the highest I ever got when I worked at Bungie was level 11 in Halo Reach, and I made all the damn weapons in it.
Drop me your gamer tag before we roll out, and I will get you in with us. You will have a blast.
It's Serellan, that's
okay.
What it is.
All right, we'll add you. Joe, you're in the chat room, man. Let's get him added up and get you in, because we do a lot of streaming of Halo 5 these days, and I haven't played it
Yeah.
for, I've been playing it more now than I ever have, thanks to these guys.
I
So,
haven't played it yet. I have it because my
oh
wife
my
works at
God.
Microsoft, so I
Oh
haven't
my
played.
God,
I haven't played multiplayer
Warzone
yet.
and Firefight and oh yeah, we're okay. This is happening. This
Yeah,
is happening.
Yeah.
This
it's
is
probably the
happening.
best multiplayer since Halo 2. It's good. It's
I
good.
have to admit. So, but where I was going with that was I am still more of a campaign guy. Like
Yeah.
that's why I've pulled away from the Call of Duties because I know they have a campaign, but they really never focus on it as much as they focus on the single
Right.
player.
Yeah.
Siege is I haven't played Siege. The exception to the rule for me was Overwatch,
Mhm.
but that's also
because you got it for free.
Okay.
I'm competitive with Overwatch.
But I think that was also like everybody's
Overwatch.
exception to every rule was Overwatch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you don't have to. You don't have to grind and you don't have to level. You could just get in there, play, have a good time, and roll out.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think they nailed that. And I think that's one of the things that I miss. I mean, I've had some very, especially in, around the 2004, 2005 timeline. So gosh, that's like what 10, 11 years now, arguing about kind of the grind and unlocking and stuff in multiplayer. Where I was on the skill side of I want to get good at a game and be skilled at it, not have to play it for 40 hours and unlock, my nuclear weapon attack. Um, and in hindsight, from an industry standpoint and a monetization standpoint, I was completely wrong on a lot of that. Because the games that did that made a ton of money because they used the same player motivations that free-to-play games, get people to spend $12,000 on Candy Crush. Um, but I still, I mean, that's where I long. I want to just be able to jump on. I mean, I think that's one of the things I tend to lean towards these days, co-op gaming. So I'd much rather jump in something like Left 4 Dead and, just kill dudes with my friends, or even Halo co-op mode.
Warzone you will love Warzone.
Nice,
So
nice.
you're honestly, especially with me, if we start rolling through a lot of these games, man, I am a co-op guy. I would much rather work with somebody against a common goal rather than have to go up against people that are just going to anger me and make me rage quit. So
Well, and I think that kind of informs where we're going with Epsilon. Is Epsilon first and foremost, we wanted to focus on a core single player experience, just as a proof of concept that we could have a game that incorporated, pre-mission planning, intelligence gathering, squad commands, you know, complicated door interaction, objective-based gameplay, non-linear maps. We wanted to have that first, and now what we're focusing on when I talk about working towards multiplayer, we're actually building towards co-op first. So it'll be that co-op PvE experience that you're working together, and there's a ton of, I've been going back and forth and trying different iterations on, how does pre-planning work in co-op? Does it even exist in co-op? Who does it? Are we all doing it? Do we each have a squad member? Are there squad members? Is it too complicated with squad members? That's been eating up, honestly, a lot more time than I thought it was gonna, just because there's so many different iterations on what works. It's like, am I ordering you, or am I ordering an AI teammate? Or if I give you an order, do you have to do it? Like how's all this working in cooperative play? Now the easy way to do that is strip all that out and just say do whatever you want. But then again, there's still the technical aspects. But so our next move is on co-op, and then once we get all the co-op issues, like all those things in co-op that I just talked about are so much more complicated than a competitive multiplayer mode, then it'll be easy to move to competitive multiplayer and 16 players or whatever on Unreal.
I'm thinking that if you want to do, not that I'm giving you any ideas for your game, because obviously you know a hell of a lot more than I do. But it would be, you're talking about how to give commands. I think a great idea would be if you give a command to another player, you get some sort of bonus for actually doing it or you get a penalty for not doing it.
Well, that's really interesting, because someone brought up the other day. I did a chat with. I'd love to ping them right now, but I forgot what they're called. MP focus or a multiplayer focused site, and we were talking about non-lethal weapons in PvP competitive multiplayer, and I was talking about the challenges because non-lethal weapons in tactical shooters tend to either be super overpowered or super gimped, and tend to not, they're either useless or you just run around like in SWAT 3 with pepper spray and you just win, which is totally lame when it's just one guy running around with pepper spray and it's just pepper sprays everybody and everybody
Like that
surrenders.
damn guy with the pistol.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, but one of those things, what I was talking about was the motivation to surrender. So, like, if you're like in a shooting situation and someone pepper sprays you, and you have a gun in your hand, and they give you an option to surrender, you can no longer see, you can't engage any targets. You have a motivation to go, okay, I'm going to drop my gun, I'm going to give up because I'm disabled. I can't effectively engage any targets. I'm done. In a multiplayer competitive gaming environment, if you have a gun in your hand and you get pepper spray and you can't see and you can't engage targets, you're just going to say, screw it! You're just going to start pulling the trigger and spinning around in circles and like, maybe I'll get a kill until someone kills you, right? Because that's what the motivation is to get kills. So then you, as a game designer, you start looking at, well, what are our motivations? Maybe the way you get scored in multiplayer is the team gets, a total bonus points, and how the team acts, and you actually get bonus points for living versus getting killed. So surrendering has no negative effect on your team scoring because you're just like, well, oh, wait, I'm not going to get any more kills, but I'll be alive, so my team gets the points for me being alive if I give up. Of course, then you're in, everybody just surrenders at the beginning of the match, so it's always a balance issue.
Well, I figure you could put that towards, your next planning stage.
Yeah, I mean, those are always the thing. It's always funny. All this stuff is a balancing act. I mean, in GRA 2, we introduced a feature where we introduced the medic feature. So someone can get wounded and they go down, and you could go up to them and hook them up and get them back into play. And it worked pretty well. It had some really cool moments. It was even moments where people were like intentionally wounding enemies and then sniping their friends as they were coming in to try to heal them, which was like totally like.
Full Metal Jacket style.
Yeah, Full Metal Jacket style. It was awesome. I watched someone do that. We had this one map where it was like a Crash C-17, and I watched this dude like kill like 5 people. He'd shoot a dude in the leg. He was a sniper. He's laying down. He'd shoot a dude in the leg, and then he'd wait. And as people came in to try to help him, he'd just kill them. Oh, it was brutal.
Pretty much a trap.
Yeah. But so we made an achievement that was like, hey, heal 10 of your friends. And I'm like, that's a good. And I hate achievements. I mean. Achievements are fine, but I've had a really bad experience with achievements.
Frankie, that's
yeah. Well, hence worst game achievements of the year, GRA 2006. Yeah. So I jump into the game after it ships, and like day one, I jump into a game, and everybody switches to pistols, turns, and starts shooting each other in the leg. And then the last guy standing goes and like heals up everybody in the team so that he could get all the points towards the achievement. I was like, guys, that is not what I wanted to do. So,
oh my God, that is fantastic.
That's hilarious. That's
that is
crazy.
Brutal. That is funny.
Game.
Oh my goodness. So let's see. So we covered. I'm glad. See, the funny thing is you had me sold at cracking the door open. So, I mean, I can't think of I think there have been games where you can slide the door open. I can't remember what they are.
Rainbow Six Raven Shield had it back on the PC. I think they cut it for console. I don't think they had it on the Xbox. And maybe one of the SWAT games had it. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. But I do want to give the kind of full pitch on Epsilon. I mean, it is in early access. There's 2 single player levels that you can access, obviously with pre-mission planning, several different weapons, lethal, non-lethal. Equip your squad with what weapons you want, and 2 different game modes. There's a story mode and a kind of elimination, just murder everybody mode. But the key thing is it's currently at $7.99 on Steam. That's US $7.99. Yes, the price of a mocha with an extra shot. But as we add features, we're going to be raising the price. So you get it now for $7.99. Obviously, you get all updates for free from now on until the game's done. So if you want to support this kind of shooter, if all the people that had it in their wish list would actually just buy it for $7.99, then I might not be sitting in this cabin right now. But it would make a huge difference because right now I know a lot of people are sick of early access and they're sick of people putting out crap. I mean, early access, in my opinion, Steam made a huge mistake when they opened it up to just basically anybody be able to put here I bought Game Maker and made the ball blue early access. It's been kind of a shit show, but if you do want to support it, again, $7.99. It'll be $14.99 once co-op comes out. It'll be $24.99 and then $44.99 and then probably $49.99. That's part of our thing is wanting to give you we want to sell the game what it's worth right now, not what we think it's going to be worth.
I mean, I'm not a PC. This may be the first PC game I play in a long time. I might.
I'm sold.
You're going to get your ass kicked, dude. If you haven't played a PC game, you're going to get smoked.
I haven't. It's been a long time.
I'm going to get smoked, but I'm going to have fun doing it, though.
Right on.
My God. Yeah, this is gonna...
I don't know if my PC can handle that type of game, but I'm not really 100% sure. I haven't tried a PC game on my computer as of late, but I was thinking of getting Overwatch, obviously, on PC, but, I definitely want to look into Epsilon, so...
Well, try out Overwatch, and then if that runs fine, then Epsilon will be fine on your machine.
I think it'd be cheaper for you to try Epsilon first, Matt.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean,
and you got 2 hours to refund on Steam, too.
Dude, I would keep it no matter what. I mean...
Yeah, I would definitely go with Epsilon.
I mean, you can't beat $8 for a game. I mean...
No, you can't.
So if this did come to console, would you... Xbox One has the game preview program. Would you be willing to do that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking to them. I've talked with some of the folks from ID at Xbox, and I think we need to get, for it to be viable on Xbox specifically, we need to get the co-op up and running first.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Find out some of the issues with multiplayer, so at least you can jump on with 4 to 6 of your buddies and play. I think especially the type of gamers that are interested in this kind of shooter, they want that, that multiplayer experience, that, party-based experience. I think even more so than PC, I think Xbox is much more party-focused, right? When you're jumping into a multiplayer shooter, you want to jump in with your friends, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so even if that, I think I'd rather delay it out a little bit longer on Xbox and have that multiplayer experience, some kind of multiplayer experience, whether it's even co-op or even bare bones PvE, because I don't know, that's just my gut on Xbox shooter gamers. Is the first thing you want to do is play with your buddies. On Steam, on PC, I'm much more likely to I love AOE 2 HD. It's like my new crack, aside from Fallout 4 and Fallout Shelter, and all the other games.
Yeah, you and Fallout Shelter, man.
Dude, I've gotten literally sitting down and doing maintenance on my shelter is like a 3-hour job. So every 3 days,
so
I have to
that's where
sit down.
That's where all the game development time is going.
Yeah,
chasing Pokemon around your house.
Yeah, I do it at 11 o'clock at night. It's like, okay, I gotta send everybody out. And I'm like, why am I doing this? This is work. What am I doing?
So
maybe I'll just go make fun of Pokemon people. That'll make me feel better.
Yeah. So and obviously you guys would Sony likes these kind of games too nowadays. I would imagine that they would. I don't know that they've got an early access program, but if they did, that would be a great place too.
There's talk about it, and we've been in talks with Sony. We've kind of traded some legal documentation with them, and obviously if you guys go and look at it, there's a strong the SOCOM community on the PlayStation 4 is basically equivalent, honestly equivalent, much bigger from a platform standpoint than the Ghost Recon community on Xbox. I mean, essentially SOCOM and Halo, when you looked at the platforms, were kind of equivalent there for a while. Until Sony just
Yeah, and
made
there
the
are a
decision that they-
lot. I mean, there are a lot of angry XOCOM players
Yeah.
that would jump for a game like this.
Yeah,
I would double dip just to have them on both, just to have, because there's two, there's a lot of us here, Frankie and Enrique and I, we're multi-platform owners, so we have friend bases. Now, obviously for me, my friend base is much larger on the Xbox just because I've built it up that way, and the PSN and the PS3 era really wasn't as big. So
Right.
now I'm building that community on the PS4 as well, and I've got a solid core of gamers there that I could game with. I would absolutely buy this twice just to have it on both systems.
Yeah, well, I think it was interesting because there was a game called H-Hour that came out. It was a Kickstarter. I don't know if it ever actually shipped on PlayStation. I'd have to look it up because no, they never brought it over.
Not yet. I don't even know if it's out of. Is it out of early access yet?
No, I don't think so. It was last I heard, it was kind of dead.
Yeah, because I know David Sears left, and
Yeah, he left.
after that, it just fell off the radar for a lot of people. So
I haven't heard about it. I mean, Squad was Squad on PlayStation. The Squad was looking pretty good.
I don't think so.
But anyway,
I think it was.
I don't remember.
yeah. It looks like they're still working on it. At least I just went to their Steam page, and they're still the SOF guys. Because I know I talked to them for a few times, and that was more of a straight like SOCOM sequel.
Yeah.
But I think they might have ran into trouble. I mean, I ran into some trouble trying to work with Sony. I mean, back in 12, 13, they were really obtuse about indie developers getting on their platform. Like, and it wasn't necessarily the production side of things. It was like the legal side of things. Of like, I spent like 6 months going back and forth just trying to get dev kits, like signing contracts and stuff like that. So it was really hard for indies. It's a big deal if it's like, okay, well, we'll get back to you in 2 months to see whether we're going to send you consoles. And you're like, I'm going to like lose my house in 2 months. So could I?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I'll just work on PC. Screw you guys. And Xbox has been back and forth on that, but I think Sony's kind of maybe coming around a little bit. So we'll see.
Oh, they both. I mean, if you notice now, and I do want to pivot back to your past and stuff, but if you notice now, they are both very. They seem to be both very interested in in many ways now financially supporting indie devs when they can. I mean,
Yeah.
if you
Well,
look at
I think they want to find the way to find the next Minecraft without paying $4 billion for it.
yeah,
Right? I mean, the next Ark, the next, whatever.
they should have bought Rocket League. Is what they should have done.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things they should have bought, but I think if you look across the industry at the big players, you look at the publishers, you look at the platform producers. I mean, if the platform producer, supports an indie dev that blows up and becomes something like Microsoft, and they take 30% of that cut for the rest of that IP's life, they've just paid for everything that they did with all indie development before. And I think that's what shifted is they've realized that. Whereas like you saw some of the early Xbox community stuff, it was kind of like, well, we'll make community stuff, but the community stuff is kind of over here with community people because they're like the hardcore people that are just off, crazy. And now they're like, well, wait a minute, if we spend $2 million on this and we find the next Minecraft and we get 30% of $1 billion in revenue, that'll be a really good return. So maybe that's a good investment. I mean, it's why you see Unreal saying, yeah, we're going to give $500,000 out to indie devs because those indie devs are using Unreal 4, and if Unreal 4 gets 5% of that revenue, that $500,000 is going to pay itself back with one hit. One hit's going to pay everything back.
And it seems to me that Unreal wants to kind of reclaim some of that mind share back from Unity and other smaller engines that have kind of come up since Unreal Engine 3. Because until this gen, I honestly never heard of Unity, and all of a sudden, everybody and their mother's using it. And Unreal out of the blue said, "Well, wait a minute, why don't we just give our engine away?"
Yeah.
And
So yeah, what happened with that is Unreal's old model was to target AAA. So they were saying, they were making deals with Ubisoft. They're making deals, hey, we're going to get X number, hundred thousands of dollars for all these AAA. And then Unity came along and they targeted the garage developers. They said, hey, it costs $65 to get Unity. And that coincided with the drive to social and mobile when it was like, hey, now our budget, instead of a AAA budget of, $50 million, we've got a mobile budget of $200,000. So it's a big deal if we have our 65 Chinese developers, if we can have them all on there for, $650. Okay, screw it. We're making it in we don't care how it works. $650 for our whole team in China? Yeah. And then so yeah, first Unity went free, and then Epic went free, and I think now CryEngine's finally doing some kind of free thing.
Yep.
Because they basically realized, and it's basically the YouTube model, right? It's like the difference. YouTube makes its money from you uploading content to YouTube, and then they get a cut from the advertising. Versus if YouTube charged $100 to upload a video onto YouTube, nobody would upload videos and they wouldn't make any money. So yeah, I think they've figured that out, and they've also figured out that they're catering to indies with the content packs, the tutorials, the community support. Not to say anything non-disclosure breaking about 4 years ago, but trying to get support from Unreal right now is 10,000 times better than it was just a few years ago in Unreal 3. It's a major difference. Like they're just the entire attitude has completely changed. And a bunch of my buddies work there now that I don't want to say were game developers, but they were AAA shipping console developers. And now they're hired specifically to make example content in Unreal for other developers to either use or learn how they made it. Like the kite demo, where the kids run around with a kite. A lot of those people are ex-Redstorm folks that worked on Ghost Recon. And now they're making those demos for other people to either use that content or learn how to make content in Unreal. So they sent me a bunch of free stuff, full disclosure, so is Razer Kraken 7.1.
I've heard those are fantastic.
They are awesome when they work.
When they work.
But they work, all right. Oh, wow.
Anyway, I'm rambling now.
No. This is as I said before, man. I didn't want this to be kind of like a check by check interview. This is what we'd like to do here. Is we're all gamers too, as you are and as we are. We just sometimes it's just talking shop. I mean,
yeah, it's always for me as a gamer. It's always fascinating to hear this, like the business side of the industry and some of the things that developers go through. Because I think that a lot of us are, well, I shouldn't say a lot of us, but there's some gamers out there that don't really understand, the sweat equity that goes into game development, or how difficult it is to make a game. And that's kind of been like a big critique of mine. Like when I hear people say, "Oh, this game looks like it sucks," and I'm just like, well, yeah, okay. If it's not something that you might like, you don't have to play it. But to sit there and say that it sucks without playing it is a little ridiculous. And if you think you can do better, you should try game development. And so I have a fond appreciation for, hearing this, because a lot of us are kind of naive to, what goes on behind the scenes. Like I had no idea that, Unreal Engine 4 was 4 years ago. It wasn't as maybe friendly, or wasn't, they weren't really going after indie developers until now. I think that's great insight for all of us here.
Well, I think one of the challenges today is that, because of, everybody's kind of interconnectivity, and especially as gamers, I mean, I don't want to date myself too much, but, when it used to be you went into the store and there was the games in the comic book store, the game store, and you bought them off the shelf and you took them home and you played them, and maybe you got a magazine and read about it. It was like you're so detached. Like you never thought like, well, I could have totally made Super Mario better than that. But now that
now you can with Mario Maker. Now you can
go make Mario Maker, or you can go to Gamma Sutra or GameIndustry.biz and be like, Well, I kind of read on Twitter about game development, so I know how this works, and I can talk about it. It's like me, like if I just went and started like commenting on like why Takata airbags are completely fucked in like every car in America. Well, obviously, if they're going to use bad stuff in the airbags, they're going to blow up. I mean, it's obviously because they're just hate car drivers. So yeah, I mean, yeah, you can't ever get that kind of stuff across, and it seems these days in lots of industries, everybody's an armchair general, everybody knows everything about everything, and if you take the time to try to explain, like, well, hey, dude, actually, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, you don't know why these decisions were made. A lot of times, decisions, especially in games, aren't like a single decision, like, hey, let's have a meeting about whether we should make our main character suck. Like, okay, everybody vote, suck or don't suck.
Right,
okay,
right.
we vote suck.
You did it on purpose. You purposely went out to make this,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it does bring
It's
up
all
an
your
interesting.
fault.
It does bring up an interesting question. And
Well,
it's
hold on real
something-
quick, Mike. I think
Yeah.
you said this on this podcast. I think that you had mentioned that developers don't go in a game or go into a boardroom and say, okay, let's make this game.
Yeah, right. Nobody does. Look, there's obviously factors that go into what happens to a game, and sometimes it comes down to developer experience. Sometimes it goes into the engine that they use. There are various pressure points to game development. I know enough.
The pressure
Yeah.
point.
And I've had other discussions with developers over my gaming time that I kind of know that, and I would imagine that you would know this too as a game developer. It's got to be sometimes real hard when you put so much of your time, effort, and, as Enrique says, sweat equity into a title, and then it gets just panned, and sometimes sometimes it even gets to the point of being unfair, and so it's gotta weigh on you. You're a human being like everybody else,
Yeah, it can. I mean sometimes sometimes it's almost comical, right? Like so here's an example, like on Ghost Recon 2 Summit Strike was the standalone expansion pack to Ghost Recon 2 on the Xbox. It was the brilliant idea of Ubisoft to launch an expansion pack on the Xbox on the original Xbox.
That was OG, yeah.
2 months before the 360 came out, which was, of course, a winning sales strategy. It was also, some people say, the best Ghost Recon ever. Jason Jones, the head of Bungie, told me it was the best Ghost
I
Recon.
meant to grab the box before we started the podcast. I am telling you, you have no idea the shrine of Ghost Recon I have that I've been. This is the. Do you know how long I've been? You know how long I've been waiting for this?
Well,
podcast?
Summit Strike is definitely personally my favorite Ghost Recon, just because the autonomy of the team, and specifically me and Jeff McGann that worked together on it as lead designers. Everybody was so focused on Gra, it was just like they just let us do whatever the fuck we wanted on Summit Strike. We're just like,
it was great.
Like nobody looked like it was like us and some artists doing the art, and then like 2 engineers, and it was just like, yeah, we're gonna write a story, we're gonna change all the way the cinematics work, we're gonna just do this thing, and it was all based on I don't even know what we based it on, but it was in I don't know. Anyway,
there was snow. I remember snow.
Yeah, there was snow. Well, that whole thing was like you were gonna start in the snow, and then you move down through the
mountains,
city,
right,
or the mountains, and then in the city, and then out into the woods, and this whole idea of a continuous campaign. Anyway, so there was a bug with Summit Strike when it shipped, and we didn't find out until the initial run of like 200,000 discs had gone out to stores. If you booted up the Xbox with the game in the tray and your headphones plugged in, it would crash. And the reason for this crash was because it was a standalone expansion, so there wasn't a lot of code changes between the original and the standalone expansion. There was just like some AI fixes. But when we made the new intro cinematic for the game, it was a tiny bit larger in RAM size than the original cinematic. Well, that didn't matter unless you had your headphones plugged in, which on the original Xbox then activated your mic, which used RAM for your mic, So then it overrent the amount of RAM that the Xbox had and would crash. Well, our developers and our testers didn't catch this because on dev kits and test kits, they have a tiny little bit extra memory installed in them to be able to run the debug software to track crashes. So it was just right in between that amount of RAM. So none of our test kits, we didn't know about any of it until it hit actual retail kits. So Ubisoft at the time was like, okay, fuck, like, can we patch this? And we're like, no, we can't patch this. Like, it's impossible to patch. Like, we have to pull these discs. Ubisoft's like, well, it's only the first 100,000 discs. Can we fix it on new discs? Oh, yeah, we can fix it on new discs. Okay, well, let's just see if anybody notices if this happens. Let's just ship it, and then maybe no one will actually, because if you started it from the menu, it was okay, but it was only if you actually booted your box with the headphones plugged in.
Huh.
So then on the forums, and then there's this whole other thing, like if you ran 3 other games and then restarted, and then once it loaded, it was fine, because then once it was loading, it was copying the video onto the hard disk. And so it was all this different combinations of stuff. Well, this guy on the forums was like, I was trying to start the game, it kept crashing, and then for whatever reason he said, like, I unplugged my Panasonic microwave, and then I restarted the game and it worked. And so I think my Panasonic microwave is interfering with my Xbox. And so this other dude was like on the forums, oh, I have a Panasonic microwave too, and I unplugged it, and then I started the game and it worked. There's like a dozen people on the forums like unplugging microwaves and rebooting their Xboxes. It's like, no, it's like this random combination of 10 different things. It has nothing to do with your fucking microwave, dude. So that's on one end of the spectrum where, like, yeah, some engineers screwed this up, and gosh, I'm sorry. And then on the other end of the spectrum, yeah, there is, you know, especially with the games press, I would say more with the games press and somewhat with the users, but there's this kind of blood in the water syndrome that you see where it, like, at some point it, oh, don't worry, RGM. Oh, Bella's on.
I know.
Yeah, Bella's on.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Remind him what an NDA.
I think that NDA expired. Yeah, that was like.
Yeah, I
almost
think
2 years
I
ago.
don't think we're getting. I don't think anybody from Ubisoft is going to be
we're
calling.
okay.
I've told that story like a million times. So, and by Ubisoft I meant EA. That's who I was actually talking about. But no. On the other hand, there is there's that blood in the water syndrome, and I've seen it with a few of my titles where, especially journalists and somewhat press, like on one of the games I released called Takedown, came out the same week as Battlefield 4, I think, and Takedown raised $200,000 on Kickstarter, and I think if you probably know, Battlefield probably has a little bit higher budget than that, but and yes, in hindsight, it was stupid to release up against Battlefield, and that was a publisher decision, not ours. But a lot of people were like just slamming the animations of like all these people that had said, all we care about is gameplay, all we care about is the tactical nature, but your animations are stiff, your animations suck. I'm playing Battlefield, and it's like, dude, the game's $14.99, and yeah, we have stiff animations, and it's actually not even the animator's fault. It was actually an engine issue where we didn't have the transitions that we needed to have. So, and then people call you names, and
Yeah, the usual.
Yeah, the usual. Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, Battlefield 4 wasn't without its issues at launch.
Oh,
What dice game doesn't have issues?
I don't know. Modern combat warfare? I don't know.
I've been dying. I've been waiting to. I was hoping you'd bring up Summit Strike. This has been sitting on my PC now since the beginning of the podcast. I would like to show you this. Way back in the old days, NL Gaming was a website, and I ran. It was mine. I ran it with a couple of people, and we were fortunate enough to really be close with publishers. So I got a copy of Summit Strike to review. And a site called web.archive.org just happens to still have it up there from 2005. And I just want you to know, I gave it an 85.
Awesome.
So I was one of those that said Summit Strike is every bit as good as the original Ghost Recon 2. So I truly, when I say I enjoyed it, I am not bullshitting you. I, honest to God, enjoyed the game. And
Well,
so, yeah.
yeah, Summon Strike was one of my favorite games to work on. Again, as a game designer, it was cool because we had this restriction of we only had like one or two engineers. And one of the engineers, if I remember correctly, there was two engineers, and I could be wrong. You'd have to check the credits, but I remember two main engineers. It was Deanna Stelmack, who was a network engineer, and she was focusing on just purely, I think, kind of Xbox network connections. And then David Ham, who was focused on AI stuff. And it was kind because that was basically, it was kind of, here's a few engineers. We had a few, I'm sure there was others, but those are the two I remember really working with. And so it was basically like, it was like a 6-month development process, and it was like, so you had 4 months of engineering time. So any actual code-based changes in the game, you were severely limited. It was like you had 4 months of engineering support of like, so you had this list of like 90 things you wanted, and it was like, no, pick 8. And it was like, oh crap. And so it was a lot of content-based development, a lot of content, like the way the cinematics changed, the way the level design changed, how it went to more non-linear spaces than Ghost Recon 2, and not trying to do more of a cinematic thing.
Well, you had
the
24 maps. I mean, you had a
crap ton of
that
maps.
was a crap ton of content. I mean, I remember playing a lot of the two modes that I loved the most were Search and Rescue and Hamburger Hill. Those are my two big. Those are my two big. And then Helo Hunt, because that was co-op.
Oh, Helo Hunt is so cool because the whole thing about Helo Hunt is, so on Ghost Recon 2, there was an engineer. His name was Mike Dickheiser, and I hope I'm getting this right because otherwise I'm getting my ass killed. And he worked on a car racing, a car kind of like GTA style game for Microsoft that the studio got bought for Ubisoft. And then we brought him on, and he built this AI in Ghost Recon 2 for the helicopters, a specific helicopter UI in Ghost Recon 2 where like you were going across the bridge and the helo was coming in, and they had all these track points and how they yawed and moved, and it was all this specific helo AI that we only ever used in single player in Ghost Recon 2. And then in Summon Strike, it was like, well, we've got all this cool helicopter UI or AI. Like, what are we going to do with it? And I think it was me and Jeff that just sat down and went like, well, we could have like horde mode, but with helicopters. And like, first it's the wimpy helicopters, and then it's the helicopters with rockets, and then the helicopters with machines. And then you're just sitting there with rockets, and there's rocket reloads everywhere, and you're shooting rockets down. It was like the coolest. And it was funny. I think those are the two biggest modes where it was that and Armor Strike. Armor Strike was like more of a competitive Battlefield style zone-based, blow up the enemy's armor one, but Helo Hunt was the one that really took off because it was co-op, I think.
Oh, it was so fun, man. It really was.
Yeah, and I think that was like me and Jeff McGann at like 11 o'clock at night drinking beer at Red Storm Entertainment when nobody else was there. Yeah, it was crazy.
All right. Awesome. So before we, you know what, because that's a good transition point, but before that, gentlemen, before we move on, any questions? I know you have to excuse me. I mean, this is...
No.
You have no...
I understand.
This is your show, man. Your show.
Yeah.
Well, this is our show, but I'm just the one, it's like when you start talking Ghost Recon, so, I mean, I grew up with Rainbow Six, PC, and then, believe it or not, the Sega Dreamcast. And then Ghost Recon came along and did something so unique and interesting. And one of the things that I wrote in that Summit Strike review was, it was really kind of a precursor to cover and stuff in Grawl, was that you could be down in the weeds. I mean, this was like, it was so real at the time, what you would consider realistic. You're down in the weeds. People are walking by you. You pop up, pow, and then shoot back down before they have a chance to see you. That was, I would spend so much time just crawling. I mean, I would spend probably more time, honest to God, I would spend more time prone in Ghost Recon, because you couldn't do prone in Rainbow Six. You could only kneel. But Ghost Recon, I spent so much time prone hiding behind stuff because I wasn't good at run and gun. But man, could I take you out when you're not looking. And I mean, it was just so much. It was so fun.
Camper.
Call it what you want.
Yeah, it's either tactics or camping. But so for me, I think I had a similar experience. I mean, my young days were on the Atari 2600 and then the SNES, and then did some Doom and some of the old school PC games and Apple games. Kind of went away, and did some Doom stuff. Went away to the military, came back, and then. When I came back, I'd been playing a lot of. I was playing StarCraft, AoE 2, Quake 3, and then my buddy from Costco. He used to be able to buy games early because he worked at Costco, so they'd get the run of games in like a week before they came out, and he was an employee.
Oh, nice.
So he brought home like 5 copies of this Rainbow Six game, and was like, "We got to play this." And I was like, "Dude, I'm playing Quake 3, and this game looks like shit, and I'm not gonna play this stupid police game." Because Quake 3 looks so much sweeter than this ugly-ass game. And we played it, and we were playing LAN co-op, and my buddy Elliot, and I'll have to send him this because I use this quote all the time, but it's the embassy mission, I'll never forget this. He goes, "First we announce our presence," and he sticks his M16 up in the air and he fires off like 4 rounds. Dude, within 30 seconds, all 6 of us are dead. And we're like, "Oh my god, what is this game? This is awesome." Because we'd been playing Quake 3, like sniping each other with Gauss rifles, Q3 test, I think it was, where it only had the 2 maps. And then we're like, "Oh, wait, we're dead? We can't, wait, what, we're dead? What do we do? Oh, we're dead. Oh, this is awesome." And so, to me, it's funny because I got actually booed at a GDC conference not the other day, a few years ago, because they asked what my most influential game was, and to me it was the original Rainbow Six. And of course they said, "Oh, the designer of Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon," which I'm not, but everybody booed me. But anyway, my point was that, like, when I look at that, what you just mentioned, right, and what I think is the important things about nonlinear gameplay, whether it is more micro nonlinear gameplay like something like Rainbow Six or Epsilon, something bigger like Ghost Recon or Ground Banch, or something like Grand Theft Auto, is that when you go to that water cooler the next morning, you're not saying, "Hey, remember on level 7 when you went into that room and there was a bad guy in a tracksuit that was a Serbian, and then you like tortured him, and then you hit A and he said you were evil, and then you hit B and then everything blew up. Remember that?" "Yeah, I remember that. I hit A and I tortured him, and then I hit B and everything blew up, like the same as you." Okay, cool. But you tell those stories of, "Oh my God, I had climbed up this building," whether it's DayZ, whether it's Ark, whether it's, again, Grand Theft Auto, Ghost Recon, this non-linear core gameplay. "I went to this place and I did this thing, and there was this guy and his feet, were right by me." I mean, I told this story the other day on War Z, the very first time I played War Z. It was raining and I broke my leg. I hadn't found anybody, but I found a sniper rifle, and I climbed up to the top of this like smokestack tower, and I'm sitting on this tower, hoping the rain to stop so I don't get sick, because I'm gonna die. But then there's this guy low crawling on the train tracks, and he's low crawling along these train tracks, and I can see him for like ever, and I'm like tracking him through the scope, and I'm like, I could kill this dude and go take his stuff, and maybe he'd have a bandage that could fix my broken leg, but I feel really bad about it, so I'm just gonna let him go, and I'm just gonna watch him on the train tracks. And I never talked to the guy, and I don't know who it was, but it'll always stick in my mind of one of those times that, like, I was a really good person because I could have just totally wasted that dude on the train track. And I think that's the kind of, you get these stories out of nonlinear gameplay where there's multiplayer inherently is generally nonlinear unless you're playing Counter-Strike. But, when you're having these nonlinear experiences, you're able to build your own story and tell your own story. And rather than playing a linear cinematic experience where you're like, "Hey, did you see that part in the movie last night? Yeah, I saw it. It was great." Okay, cool. We're done talking about
it. I can understand that. All right, so before we roll on, gentlemen, I don't want to.
Nothing.
I don't want to feel like I'm
Like
monopolizing all,
No,
monopolizing all the questions.
This is
Well, let's
just
do this. Let me take a 3-minute break, and you guys kind of round up, and then we can move on to the next segment.
He has to pee.
I do have to pee.
Not
Miller
a
Lite.
problem.
Miller Lite.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Miller Lite.
This
Short
episode-
recess. We'll be back after these commercial messages.
has been brought to you by Miller Lite.
All right, I'm just gonna mute out just for a few minutes.
Yeah, no problem. Enrique, what's going on, brother?
No, you know what? I'm just enjoying listening. Because we don't really get the opportunities to.
And he has the Les Grossman picture.
Yes.
That
which makes it 10 times better.
Yes, it does. But it's cool, Mike, that we don't get the opportunities. I've really been talking because I've been enjoying listening to him talk about some of the things in the industry and just some of the experience he's had as a game developer. I mean, that's awesome. We don't get that a lot. We don't get that perspective a lot.
And not just a developer, but one of the developers of a game series that influenced my timeline of games. I mean, Ghost Recon Summit Strike and Ghost Recon 2, they were the pinnacle for me of multiplayer at that time. Everybody else was into Halo and and into those.
I was Halo 2,
right?
Wolfenstein.
All the running gun, and I loved Wolfenstein for what it was, but there was something different about Ghost Recon and Ghost Recon 2.
It was tactical. That's the one thing that always stood out to me about that series. It was more tactical. It required a little more teamwork, a little more thought. Like I was kind of busting your balls a little bit about the camping thing, but no, that was tactical. Like that's how you could play that game. It's probably a smart way to play that game.
Well, it's what you did in real life. I mean, this guy, that's the other thing too. When he comes back, is he does have military experience.
Yes.
And so I do want to ask him also about he's done some things with Operation Drop, Supply Drop. So I want to talk to him about that as well. And yes, Bella, I promise we will talk about Hotel Blind. But this for me is it's like having one of my favorite developers on and being able to pick his brain. I mean,
Oh no, it's great.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. So, way to guilt your way onto the podcast there, brother.
Well, I mean.
Oh, I know. And by the way, for those who have not, who maybe listen to this later, if you want to check out the Basement Radio Arcade podcast, it is on Tuesday nights at 9. And last week, if you want to catch up on last week's, he had Ryan McCaffrey on from IGN. And who do you have on this week, good sir? Who I actually need to contact.
Yes, you do need to contact him. We will have David Jaffe on this Tuesday.
Oh, no way.
Yes.
Oh, the God of War Inspirer.
Yes, he'll be on at 9 p.m. We're going to talk about his new game, Drawn to Death.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that you did. I've been sitting on, and this has been my issue. I have to tell him when he comes back.
Yeah.
I'm bad with that. We've spent enough time. I've spent enough time trying to build the podcast hosts up. So now I have Matt and Frankie, and now I have a chance to. So he's back.
He's back.
And get him unmuted.
Hey guys.
There he goes. I wanted to tell you, by the way, I meant to say this at the beginning. I appreciated, because I have been wanting to, of course, have you on for the better part of 6 months, and you've actually been hawking me for this. So, and I truly appreciate it because, one thing that has been, we've been shuffling days and like I said before, trying to kind of lock down the podcast. And now that I do, I've had a chance to go back and kind of get in contact with you. And so the fact that you kind of kept in contact with me and have wanted to be here, man. The fact that you actually wanted to come on and kept messaging me about it, that's probably why I'm marking out so much about it, is because you want to be here, and it's like, it's hard to explain. Well, now I'm starting to ramble. I'm like a little schoolgirl here. I mean, Jesus.
It's definitely motivation. Especially when you're working independent, when the people that you're working with are, not in the room with you. They're, you're doing Skype chats and you're sending emails, and you're kind of separated from people. And then, but just being able to go on, for one thing. So it's kind of a balance between going on to Halo 3 with my flaming head and getting inundated by Bungie fans, and just wanting to talk to gamers without having them talk about my mom. You get motivated talking to gamers. It motivates you to remember, maybe I'm not making any money this week doing this, but this is why I do this. This is why I wanted to do this, dozens of years ago. This is why I do this every day. And it's super, super motivating. So like usually the day after I do one of these things, like I'll be like, yeah, let's do it, and go crazy. But if you go like,
I'm not sleeping tonight. I'm gonna be up all night.
We should hang the whole night.
This actually has gone longer already than I thought, which is fantastic. I was thinking to myself, man, we do these 2 or 3 hour podcasts. He's not gonna like that, but man, we're already.
No, yeah, it's already like hour 40 minutes.
Yeah, so what the hell?
It's funny. My wife, I told my wife, I said, I got to go do this podcast. She's like, the last time you did one of these, it's like took you 3 hours. So why don't you say goodnight to the kids? And I was like, oh, that's probably a good idea.
I have 3 kids of my own, so the reason this starts at 10 o'clock is because my wife goes to bed. I come down here and it's game time.
That's when I play Fallout.
See, we are alike more than you think. So this is great. This is a great segue into how you went from. I mean, you're very storied when it comes to where you've been. Red Storm Entertainment. You worked at Bungie. Worked Halo Reach. I mean, you even worked with Warner Brothers on, if I remember, Shadow of Mordor, right?
Yeah, Shadows of Mordor and Mad Max.
And Mad Max. Well. Yeah. So. And so you started out working at the AAAs. What made you want to get into indie development and kind of break away from that?
Yeah, so kind of the whole story is I actually started, like I said, as I don't think I said, I started as a modder on Rainbow Six.
On Rainbow Six, right?
Yeah, it was actually on Rogue Spear. I was making mods for Rogue Spear.
And if I might, before that, you were an MP, right, in the military?
Yeah, I was an MP in the Marine Corps, and actually, while I was in the games industry for the first 4 years, I was still in the Air Guard and in the Army Guard as an MP.
All right, so before we go any farther, thank you so much for your service. I mean, that's another whole level of respect.
I didn't go anywhere or do anything. I did a lot of cop stuff in the Marine Corps, and then in the Army Guard, I defended the what was it called? The nuclear power plant outside of Phoenix. I made sure no terrorists blew that up. So awesome.
Hey, well, you did your job. It's still there, right?
Yeah, it's totally still there. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah. So I had the military experience. I started making the mods for Rainbow Six. I was working for the government, and then it was funny because actually what happened was I was making these mods, and they got bigger and bigger and bigger. And at a certain point, I had like 150,000 downloads, which was for 1999 was huge. But I was spending just tons of time doing this stuff. I was making like full conversion mods for Rainbow Six. I was I made a mod that was basically the same amount of content as one of the expansion packs that Red Storm put out. So I was spending about 8 hours a day doing this stuff. And at a certain point, my wife was like, "You're locked in your room, doing this stuff every night from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. And you either stop or you get a job in it." And I was like, "Oh, you could get a job in this? I never thought about that." So then I kind of parlayed that over a couple years. I eventually got hired by Red Storm as an assistant designer. I was originally a scripter on, originally did some work on Rainbow Six Athena Sword, and then moved on very quickly to Island Thunder. I was a mission designer on that, and then
another game I still have, by the way.
Yeah, and then through a series of kind of events, kind of got catapulted up very quickly to lead designer on Ghost Recon 2, and then creative director on GRA 2. And and then moved on, to Bungie next, where I was design lead on Halo Reach, which was an awesome experience. And then spent a couple years at Warner Brothers, which I got to have more kind of the Hollywood side experience. I got to work with George Miller and Peter Jackson on Mad Max and Lord of the Rings. I got to kind of go through the Midway acquisition, and dealing with that kind of stuff with Batman and Mortal Kombat and some of the other Midway stuff, and then also worked on some titles that were complete shitstorms. And then when I left Warner in late 2011, it was kind of there's a lot of stuff going on at Warner. There's a lot of consolidation. They'd kind of overextended themselves as far as buying studios. They bought Snowblind. They bought Midway, obviously. So they had Surreal. They just bought Turbine. They kind of just went a little crazy with their acquisition phase, and then they kind of said, "Oh crap, we over-acquired. Now we need to consolidate." So a bunch of people were getting laid off, and that was not kind of fun. And well, Shadows of Mordor, and props to the Monolith team, and honestly the Snowblind and Surreal team, which were the other two teams that worked on the game, turned out to be a really good game. The development was not easy. And so at that point, it was kind of like, I want to do something on my own, and I was actually working on a consulting business, because I had started doing consulting on the side, where I do consulting for like investors, so like people that are going to invest in games industry, in various things. I do these calls where like I'll talk to some hedge fund manager, and he'll say like, "What should I invest in?" And I'll say like, "Well, you should invest in games." And they're like, "Okay, here's hundreds of dollars." And I'm like, "Cool." And
I got this game called Epsilon.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the great thing about the consulting thing is like you're contractually required to not talking about anything that you have insider knowledge about. So I'm actually not allowed to talk about my own company. I'm not allowed to talk about anything that I worked with anybody in the past. So I can really only talk about stuff that I learned through reading the news. Like I read like gamesindustry.biz or Gamma Sutra, and I'm like, well, couldn't you just go read gamesindustry.biz or Gamma Sutra and just like not pay someone else to do that? Like, so I just go read, like they send me and say like, here's what we want to talk about, and then I go and just Google that and then like read a bunch about it and then tell them what I just read. But whatever. But anyway, so I was trying to start this consulting company, and I got this email, and I started up Serellan.com, which was my handle on the old Ghost Recon Ubi forums. And so I got this email from a fan saying like, "Oh my gosh, you started Serellan.com. You were Serellan on the Ghost Recon forums. That's your gamer tag. You must be making a tactical shooter." And I was like, "That's pretty cool." And then I started getting all these emails, and it kind of filtered through the tactical shooter community that I was starting this new company, which I hadn't actually started yet. And then that's right when Kickstarter was starting to take off. So that all kind of timed together, and then that's what kind of launched Serellan as a company and launched Takedown. And then I also did some work on some mobile titles with After Earth with Will Smith, and then now Epsilon, and then Hotel Blind.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
I'm a big fan of Mortal Kombat. Did you bump into Ed Boon like at a bunch of times, or?
I did get to meet Ed Boon in a couple of meetings, which was pretty cool, because I've not been a huge Mortal Kombat fan. Like, I don't know if I was playing. I know I played it on, I think, the Sega, and then
Genesis?
I played
The one that had the blood?
I think the Genesis with the blood. I remember it had that tournament system where it like went up with the different blocks.
Yeah.
And then the local dry cleaners had a like Mortal Kombat machine, and so we'd go down to the dry cleaners and play in the arcade machine. But fighting games in me is like I'll smoke your ass in a tack shooter, but fighting games, like, I don't know. I'm just hitting buttons, like, I don't know what's happening, and they're ripping my spine out. No, but the cool thing is funny, is when I saw the pitch for the newest Mortal Kombat, because they had just come out with the DC versus MC, which was like the
Oh,
rated.
Injustice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they came in. Oh no, it was the one before Injustice.
No, it
the
was
original.
Mortal Kombat versus DC.
Yeah. It wasn't
Oh,
Injustice.
I totally forgot about that game.
Yeah,
A
that
lot of
one.
people
Yeah.
did.
Most people did, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a
So they-
shithole.
They just come out with that, and we had just gotten the pitch. So I was on the team, what they call a what do they even call it? Due diligence team that was going out to try to find the developer that was going to do Mad Max. So there's like 6 of us that flew around the world for like weeks and weeks and weeks, interviewing all these developers and meeting with them, all the people that had done pitches to develop Mad Max, because we decided that it was going to be done externally. Eventually, we settled on Avalanche in Sweden? Yeah. And because their pitch was basically Just Cause that looks like Mad Max, and we're like, that's awesome. Yes, Just Cause with Mad Max on top of it, of course. But then we flew back, and we were I think we were in Burbank in California, and we had like a back-to-back meeting where Avalanche came in and gave this whole pitch about their new dog technology, because they had the dog walking in circles and a bunch of the stuff that they were doing with like Chump, the guy on the back of the car. And then I just kind of stayed in the meeting because I was just there. And one of the cool things about Warner as a creative director is they like to have their high-level game people in kind of like high-level meetings, whereas like a lot of other game companies are very segmented. They'd be like, okay, we're done talking about Mad Max. All the Mad Max people get out of the room. But then the Mortal Kombat guys came in, and Ed was there. Came in and gave the pitch on the whole gut technology that they built for like we model all the guts, all the organs inside the bodies, and we cut them open, and the physics on how all the guts fall. And I was like, oh my God, is Warner Brother, like, I hadn't seen anything about Mortal Kombat. I'm like, is Warner Brothers not going to let them like ship this? Like, how are they having the balls to like pitch like, oh look, if you cut this way, then the liver slides out, and look how the liver splits in half. And I was like, oh my God, that's never going to ship. And then Warner Brothers was like, this is awesome. And I was like, Warner Brothers. It was so crazy. And I was like, no. And I got back to Monolith, and I was like, no way. Like, Warner Brothers is going to cancel this. There's no way they're going to ship this. And then it just moved forward. And I don't know if it was like Martin Tremblay, the head of WB, or just because it was Ed Boon, and everybody went, yeah, Ed Boon, we'll do whatever you want.
Here's a ton of cash. Make the game.
Yeah, guts, cool, yeah. And the demo they had was the one where he grabs the guy by the legs and he throws him on the ground, and then there's a saw blade that comes up and he pulls him across the saw blade, and it like cuts him in half.
That would be
Like Kung
Kung
Lao.
Lao.
Yeah, that was
his hat. That was his hat that cut you in half in the original.
Yeah, so that was the concept thing that they had for the Mortalities, is they made that one. And I saw that and I was like, oh my God, this is never, like, you can't ever ship. And they did it, and I was like, fucking A, Warner Brothers, like, cool. Proud of you guys. Like, you stepped up and did it, so embrace it.
Known as NetherRealm. And, NetherRealm. Good old NetherRealm.
You don't mess with a classic. That's just it. You know, you don't.
Although we did make fun of NetherRealm, because they were Midway Chicago before that, and they came up with NetherRealm, and then we all had lots of NetherRealm jokes.
Yeah, because they were trying to,
going down to the NetherRealm.
Oh, now I get it. Now I cannot unthink that.
That's gonna stick with me for a long time.
Oh man, so you get to create Serellan, and so the first game that you did was Takedown?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Takedown Red Saber. Yep.
Okay, so I mean, you could chalk it up to who did you have in your development team at that time? I mean, how big was your development team at the time for Takedown?
So when I started the Kickstarter, it was one. It was me. So eventually, the biggest, we peaked out on Takedown at 19 folks. We had about, I think, 11 full-time internal and about 8 contractors in varying, scopes from, small amount of time to kind of full-time contracting. So yeah, about 19 folks.
Okay, and so on Epsilon, how many do you have?
Epsilon at its peak had about 5, and right now has about 3.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean that's one of the differences between Unreal 3 and Unreal 4 is the amount of content that we made more, not necessarily content, because from a game developer standpoint, when you say content, you mean like guns and maps and art content. But feature-wise, we made a more featured, in-depth game in 8 months on Epsilon in Unreal 4 with 5 people than we did on Takedown with a year and a half with 19 people.
Wow.
Wow.
So it's definitely changed, and a lot of that is the approach in Unreal 4 with the blueprint system allows me as a designer to sit down and actually make a lot of things myself, where in previous iterations of older games and engines, what I would do, like for example, for like the squad behaviors, let's say squad behaviors stacking up on a door, is what I would do in previous engines is I would write a whole design document about here's all the ways that the player can interact and here's all the things that need to happen, and I would hand that to an engineer. So I'd spend 2 days, 2, 3, 4, 2 weeks, whatever, writing this document. I'd hand that to an engineer. They'd spend 2 weeks implementing it. Then I'd write up all the things that were wrong. They'd spend 2 weeks changing that, blah, 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 blah. Nowadays, is I sit down and hands-on, I just build that myself. The majority of the custom code, there has been some custom code on the AI side, but I would say like a lot of the custom code that's in Epsilon is actually about Razer Chroma integration, because we were one of the first games to have Razer Chroma color integration, and that was just because nobody had done it before. A lot of the content has been built through the interface systems that Epic has built, rather than a ton of custom code behind the scenes.
Okay, makes sense. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I had seen, in doing my research on those games before you came on. I mean, I did see some of the things that were said about Takedown, and I had never played it, so obviously, I'm not.
There's some very nice things said about Takedown.
Yeah, it was. I mean, but you drew some experience from there.
Well, I mean, obviously, I mean, a lot of the experience that I drew from it was, one of the mistakes that I made. I mean, there's lots of mistakes that I made on Takedown. There's lots of mistakes that our partners made on Takedown, and there's lots of things that I think are maybe a little bit more harsh than Takedown deserves. If you go on Metacritic, I will challenge anybody that says that Takedown in its current form is a 34 rated game. I will challenge you to a kneecap kick fight at any point. I would happily rate Takedown as a 6.0 is what I think it deserves. And a lot of that is because a lot of the stuff at the time, there was some fun Kickstarter blood in the water. It was a happy time to like, oh, look at all these Kickstarters. Especially the GameSpot review. Go read the GameSpot review and tell me, and then go play Takedown and tell me that Takedown's a 2.0 rated game. And then remember to email me the name of whoever wrote that GameSpot review.
I'll tell you what, one of us can. That's PC only though, right? That's still just a PC.
You can get it on 360. Yeah, 360 XPLA. Yeah, I'm sure it's not on the backwards compatible list.
I'm sure if you told them it was okay, because remember that's all it takes.
Yeah.
And they'll do the work. Well,
Sure.
You know what? Maybe one of us would take that challenge on, because I hadn't had a chance to play it. There was a point in time when I did take a break from gaming, and I think Takedown came out around that time.
Mm-hmm.
I missed a ton of stuff that year.
Yeah.
So I would take that challenge.
I mean, part of the problem is that specifically like GameSpot or is it GameSpot? They released their review within 2 hours, and it was mainly, a lot of it was a Kickstarter thing, but a lot of it was a bunch of bugs that were on day 1 that were fixed on day 3 that they never updated, because once you give something to 2.0, unless it's made by EA, you're not allowed to come back and update it to
well,
something.
and everybody wants to get their review out the day of.
Yeah. So again, like I said, there were some unfair things, but one of the things that the biggest things that I learned is that one of the challenges that I had takedown, and one of the things that I brought that made things a challenge in development is that I brought kind of a AAA attitude towards it, towards developing it. So instead of more of a guerrilla underground, let's do this, let's get however we can do it, let's do it, let's just talk to whoever we can. It was much more like we did much more traditional press, like I was in OXM and I did, IGN playthroughs and all that kind of stuff, and spent a lot, I mean, like pretty much the last month before the game shipped, I was just doing like playthroughs with OXM and IGN and GameSpot and all those guys, and I should have just said fuck all that and just continued to work on the game. And then also, like from a UI development standpoint, I was like, oh, at some point this game's got to be console, so I need to make sure the UI works for console and PC instead of just focusing on one platform, like trying to do a brand new studio that's never shipped a game together before, cross-platform in a franchise, a gameplay genre that's considered dead, with all the Kickstarter pressure all at the same time, was just like I was just like piling up bricks, above my head, just waiting for them to fall. So.
And the idea, and I didn't ask that question to bash you over the head with takedown, because
no, it's good.
I really wanted to know, it's interesting to hear how you bounce back from that, how you approach the next game, how you what you take away from him, and what because tools make a difference too. We're talking about an iteration of Unreal now between your two games, so what are the things that you're able to bring forward so that you don't make those kind of things the next time.
Yeah, well, I mean that's where really the iteration of the tools comes down, is that unfortunately we landed on that tail end of Unreal 3, where Unreal 3 was kind of done, and so we didn't get a lot of support from Epic, but with Unreal 4 everything's like kind of turned a full circle, and just the amount, like, I actually have a video on Gamasutra. If you search like Gamasutra Serellan or Gamasutra Epsilon doors, there's this whole video about how I built all the doors objects, and like the doors in Epsilon are like magnitude 20 times more complicated than the doors in Takedown. Like the doors in Takedown were like they opened, they closed, and we spent months trying to like keep them from pushing you into corners, and like you open them and they'd shoot you on top of them, and like you could breach them, I think, kinda, but that was it. It was like this like we spent months doing this basic implementation of just doors, and now it's like we have these doors that I built by myself without any engineers in like 3 months, and the doors are actually so complex that when you tell the squad to stack up on a door, the squad doesn't actually stack up on the door. The door, it sounds complicated. The door tells the squad where to go, because each of the doors has specific stack locations on each side, both stack locations and breach locations. The door is telling the squad, now you need to move here. Now, Alpha, you need to go here. Bravo, you need to go here. Charlie, you need to go here. Okay, now, Charlie, you play this countdown animation. Now, breach charge explode. Now, door open. Okay, now, Charlie, you breach through this way and go here. Bravo, you go over here. Alpha, you come over here. Okay, now, do you guys see any enemies? Okay, now tell the player that the room's clear. That's actually the door telling that to the squad, which to the player, of course, that's transparent. But as a designer, that's really exciting to me, that like the AI is actually just like, sure, whatever the door tells me, I'll go there, and if I see someone, I'll shoot them while I'm doing it. Cool.
I will never look at a door the same way.
No, I wouldn't either.
Like that is so fascinating, and that I know as far as geek kind of things, that geeks out. That's really neat.
No, it is totally geek. I actually gave a talk to like a 4th grader class the other day, and I was trying to explain to them the challenges that doors pose to game designers. Like, if you have this thing when you open a door, like you reach out, you open the door, you move to the right, you swing the door over here, and then you step through the door. But a gamer doesn't step to the right when he opens the door. He just presses the door open button.
Right.
And so most games, what they do is they either have sliding doors, which I have had the concession in Epsilon, or they go non-collidable when they open. Because if the door just opens and smashes you in the face over and over again, you're not like, oh, this door is all broken. You're like, this game is broken. I just keep hitting open and it's hitting me in the face. It's like, move to the right. No, I'm just going to keep opening the door.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, real quick.
Yeah.
I need to hop off because I got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
See,
I'd love to-
this is what happens.
No, I'd love to stay. I would, but
Well,
hey,
thanks for jumping in.
no, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Christian. It was a
Thanks,
pleasure
Enrique.
meeting you. Hey, thank you for your service to this country, Christian, and thank you for all the hard work and everything you've done for the gaming industry too. We definitely appreciate it.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks for coming on. And, obviously a real shout out to the real heroes that served overseas and did actual stuff. So, Semper Fi.
I need to get you two also in touch with each other. I think you'd be a great guest on Basement Radio Arcade. He runs a fantastic podcast.
Yeah.
Happy to do so. Happy to do so. I mean, like I said, I like to talk about games. I can talk about most subjects. I just enjoy talking to gamers and getting their feedback and getting their thoughts. And it's really helpful for me as a designer. Even when it's folks like you that just kind of out and like, here's my impression of the game. It's like, oh, cool, that's really good information.
Yeah.
And you tend not to get that kind of feedback on a YouTube comments list for some reason.
Right. Yeah.
No, and that's why we like to also engage our chat room, because these guys are talking to us about the game real time. And like I said, earlier in that chat room, you had a couple of people that were like, "Yeah, I'm sold," and so that's what coming on these podcasts, of course, can do. But at the same time, for us, it's not often you get to see how the sausage is made, and
Exactly.
and to be able to kind of hear it gives you a newfound perspective on not just game development itself, but the challenges that come with it.
Absolutely.
I saw those. I saw those reviews. I don't read GameSpot, but I saw those reviews for Takedown, and some of those were like, who writes this stuff? I mean, who takes the time? Legitimate complaints. I can you obviously anyone can understand that, and
Right.
you just were humble enough to say the game was a 6. How people can write some of the things they write, I don't know. It's
Well, you get used to it. I mean, it can affect you. I mean, it is an issue, but it's hard coming from the other thing. I mean, I gave a talk at GDC about this. Like one of the challenges of being indie, and I think that's why sometimes you see these blow-ups with indie game developers. Like with Phil Fish or whoever, is that when you're AAA, you kind of have this buffer of you have 200 people that worked on the game with you. So, if someone, some reviewer or some gamer's like, oh, the AI is retarded and you're an asshole, you can be like, well, I didn't work on the AI and you don't know fuck. So, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah, but Phil kind of rage quit on the industry, though.
He was, I think, kind of an early rage quit on Twitter. Like, I think I probably rage quit a few times.
Yeah, but you get to an extreme. I mean, I remember a lot of Phil Fish stuff because coming from because the back end of the 360 was about when I retired from kind of game journalism, and I knew of Phil through the kind of the Xbox the XNA and the Xbox Arcade live arcade program. So
right.
I kind of caught a glimpse of it, but hey, that's it.
But I think my point was not specifically about him. Is more in that when you're indie, it's just you, so you don't have someone standing right behind you to put that arm on your shoulder and being like, "Hey, dude, it's just calm down. It's not about you. Send your email to me before you publish it anywhere else." And so it can get emotional when someone's messaging you. You wake up at 2 a.m. and you pull out your phone like, who's texting me? And you're like, wait, I should go die? Like, what? Who? What? I'll tell you who's going to go die.
Yeah.
So Frankie, his.
Well, gentlemen, I'm gonna head off.
Yeah. Enrique, we'll see you Tuesday night with David Jaffe.
Yeah, Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll have David Jaffe on.
Tell Jaffe I said hi and tell him not to talk about Gamergate anymore.
I will.
How about you? How about you save me a seat?
I'll let him know, Kristen. Yeah, I'll let him know, man. He's got to come on and talk about his new game, Drawn to Death. So we're excited to have him on.
Didn't he work on Mad Max? Oh no, that was Borlaug. That was someone
Yeah.
else. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm getting mixed up now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Save me a seat, Enrique.
Yep, we'll do, man.
All right.
All right, gentlemen. Christian, thank you again.
Thank you,
See you
sir.
guys later.
Enrique, see you later, buddy.
Yep, see you, Matt. Mike, see you, man.
All right, brother. Yeah. Yeah. Enrique's really, really good. Good guy. He's very passionate about the game industry as well, and he's got. I do want to hook. I do want to hook you up with him at some point. He runs a great show as well. Yeah.
No, that'd be fun. That'd be fun.
And in the chat room,
I got to start one of these like YouTube things because you guys make money or something this way. Yeah. No?
I have 500 subscribers right now. I don't make that shit. This is honestly done for the joy of gaming. I mean, I'm an old game journalist. I mean, I was doing game journalism back in like 98 when the Dreamcast came out, and then when Sega went on its 20-year spiral into the hell it's in now, I decided that either I was going to get out of that or I was going to move with the times, and that's how Next Level Gaming was kind of born. Is Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo were still battling it out with each other, and I kind of wanted to stick around, so I created the site, and so a lot of what I know about the Ghost Recon series, the Athena Sword, Halo Reach, and all the stuff that you worked on is all stuff just because I've been in the industry and I've seen it. So I am sure I have run into you at some point too.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
But,
I'm terrible with faces and names, but yeah, I knew that YouTube probably wouldn't be my thing. It must have been 2013 when we did all our promotional videos for Takedown, and even I'll put in the chat here in the public chat this link to this because I'll make even more money. Message not sent. Remove any web addresses.
Oh yeah, YouTube
links.
chat doesn't like. You know what? If you shoot it to me,
Links
I'll
to
put it in-
YouTube.
Yeah, if you shoot it to me, I'll shoot it in the chat here, and I'll put
There
it
we
in
go.
the description.
Okay. Yeah, I get it. So you're not linking out to other. Anyway, it's this
Right.
video that we made that went semi-viral. We were making fun of Call of Duty about their dog, and we had a snowman and all this stuff. But so all our videos of a game, like the whole studio, all year, and then in January I get a check from YouTube for like $217, and I was like, wow, $217. And then my accountant was mad at me because she's like, it's going to take me longer to do the tax. You're going to pay me more to do the taxes for this than you may. So my accountant told me to stop monetizing my YouTube videos because they cost too much for me to pay her to do the taxes on. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I shouldn't do this YouTube thing.
I think we've made like $25.
Yeah.
But this is more for the joy of gaming for us. We're just like I said, we're gamers, man. We trust me. Since you've offered to play Halo with us, that's gonna be that'll be the pinnacle of my life. I mean, I've had box quotes. I'm in a baseball game, but to be able to play Halo with one of my childhood development heroes. Yeah, that's
well. The only thing I worry about is at one point I was at Microsoft and I was going to meet my wife and I was in the she was working in the HoloLens group and I was going through and I think I just closed the Kickstarter on Takedown and one of her coworkers, a biz dev guy at Microsoft, and he came up and he's like, "Oh, I saw your Kickstarter video, like." So awesome. I'm so excited. Like, I played Rainbow Six when I was like 14 and then I was like, holy shit, I feel old. And I played it when I was like 14. He's like, if you can bring back that feeling that I had when I was 14, like you will be a god. And I was like, dude, I don't think I can bring back your teenage childhood. Like, can we not put that amount of pressure? I'm trying to make a good game, and I think I can make a solid game, but I'm not going to bring back how life was when you were 14. I'm sorry, bro.
That's fine. Well, but you're doing it for me with Epsilon, so if that makes you feel any better.
Well,
So,
I'm trying. I'm trying.
Matt, I have been watching you chug that 2 liter, man.
Yeah,
That's
everybody's
boss.
talking about the 2 liter.
That is boss.
Yeah, I'm just drinking out of a bottle. I don't care.
You got rum in that, or?
Matt, thug life. So, Frankie is also a member of a great group of guys called Short Pause Gaming, and their podcast head is in the chat room now, and he actually said he's picking up Epsilon tonight.
Yeah,
He
he
needs to
just
bone up
texted
on
me
it.
too. He's like, I'm buying it right now.
So I'm telling you, man, this invokes. That's the neat thing about it that I think you could take away from it is it's invoking some of that old nostalgia, even if it's not kind of what you were looking for. It still does naturally, and I think that's when a game is really good, is when you can invoke what people liked about the old games that they really enjoyed without having to try to do that.
Well, I think that's you brought up Takedown in the past, and one of the things that I think is different from Takedown and Epsilon is on Takedown, one, because it was a Kickstarter game, and two, just because of what it was very much focused on, we're going to do that, we're going to make these decisions because our quote-unquote spiritual successors did this, whereas on Epsilon, it's more of just whatever's good for Epsilon. It's not about, like, one of the things on Takedown was very much, we're not going to give you information, we're not going to tell you where guys are because the old games didn't. And so that's what made the old games hard, and that pissed a lot of people off because a lot of people are really used to a lot of games telling them who's shooting them and what direction they're getting shot from and all this amount of information. And I think one of the mistakes that I made was being almost too old school and too hardcore and being like, oh, well, directional indicators are, there for Call of Duty. We're not going to do directional indicators because that's lame. Well, in general, in real life, if you think about it, you get kind of a sense if someone's shooting at you, what direction they're probably shooting at you from. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. So while we don't necessarily, I actually can't even think right now what kind of directional indicators we have, but thinking about it just from a gameplay experience, so thinking about Epsilon as like, well, how do I give you the information, whether that's vision modes or security cameras or wands to look under doors, be able to give you that intelligence to find out where the bad guys are. And yeah, the bad guys are still going to be really lethal, just like in all, in my opinion, good tactical shooters. Bad guys are lethal because if they're not, then you don't need to play tactical. You can just, run and gun. But yeah, so I think that's, kind of a difference of approach is not necessarily being inspired by the older games, but not being driven by them and not being driven to try to replicate a 15-year-old experience.
But you're putting him in there because maybe it's something that you want to do, not that you have to do. And I think if that makes sense, you're not bound by it because you think other games have done it and that say you have to do it. But directional indicators are, when you're thinking about it, yeah, maybe not so much. Maybe radar-based versus on-screen-based or something like that. But it does. You're right. I mean, it's something that does help. And do you want to do it because you feel like you have to, or because if you're playing the game, how do you want to play it? And
the way I actually approach it is the opposite from what you just said. Is I want to watch other people that haven't played it play it, and then try to make their experience better. So, like at E3, I was actually showing, we went with Operation Supply Drop, and I was mainly showing Hotel Blind, but I had Epsilon running up and well, and when people would stop by the Operation Supply Drop booth, I'd have them play Epsilon, and you just sit there and you just watch them, and you go, oh, okay, he doesn't understand that, or she doesn't know what that indicator means. And so you're just sitting there as a game designer, just making little notes to yourself of, I need to change this. And it's the same whether it's, looking at the forums or what people are talking about. besides the fact of, yes, I know I haven't posted on the forums enough, and yes, I know you want an update, and yes, I know you want more content, and yes, I know you want it to be cheaper, and yes, I know you want it to be done. But but when it comes to that minutia contact of, oh, I noticed, the first thing that person did as soon as they dropped into the level is they did this, or when they're interacting with the camera, the first thing they're doing is hitting escape because they just assume that when they click on a security camera, their interaction to get out of that security camera is to hit escape. The only way you get that information is to actually sit and watch someone play the game, because the first thing they do, even like if you click on a security camera in Epsilon, in the upper right-hand corner, there's a pause button and a big X. And so I was like, oh, well, what people will do is they'll move the mouse up and they'll hit the big X when they leave. But what they actually do is they hit escape because they're just kind of trained to like, oh, I'm in this thing I don't want to be in, I hit escape. So then we're going to implement, oh, if you hit escape, you back out of the camera. Instead of when you hit escape, it brings up the pause options menu.
Okay, that makes sense. Maybe I was thinking along the lines of you have to have a base game before you can get feedback from from your fans. So how are you gonna build that? Are you gonna build it like everybody else builds it based on what you see, or are you gonna base it on, maybe that's where I was trying to get at, whereas you base it on the game that, well, how would I want to play it? As somebody who's no longer bound by the rules of whatever other people tell me has to be in this game.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of what I mean, the way I kind of design and the way I think about things is I'm kind of organic in that, so for example, the two big things with Epsilon, I've talked about the doors a lot, but with the squad, it was like, I want to put in planning. So I figured out the planning, figured out how to implement the planning, and again, I think I've done a whole other video on Gamma Sutra about how the planning interface works and all that stuff. But it was kind of like, okay, now I've got the planning. Now, what happens if if a bad guy comes up behind my teammates and breaks the plan that I want to do? Or what happens if I use my vision mode and I see through the wall that there's this bad guy in this room that I didn't plan for my team to go into? What do I do now? So then it was kind of like, well, how do I break off that plan and then also track what the plan was so I can put them back on the plan? So it's kind of that, and then I just keep going that way. Well, what happens if I order them to stack up on a door, but then someone starts shooting at them? Do they continue to breach the door? Probably not. They should probably stop and shoot the dude that's shooting at them, right? They're not going to, like, oh, we're still clearing the room. Oh, we're all getting shot in the back. Oh, although sometimes they still do that. I haven't fixed all that yet. But
that's why it's in early access.
Yeah, that's why it's in early access.
So, and that makes sense. I mean, like I said, I guess I was thinking that you have a base, and then as you were saying at the beginning, you see how people are playing it, and then you tune it to what they want, which is always good. I mean, that's how many developers actually do that. That's
I think one of the biggest problems that we have in the games industry right now, and I've seen it at least, well, both in my experience in the AAA industry a few years ago, and then in my consulting work recently, is the desire to chase the leader. So, hey, we want to make the next Assassin's Creed. Hey, we want to make the next Grand Theft Auto. So when a developer starts with, we're going to make a Grand Theft Auto game, but it's going to be like this, then you're starting with all these tenets of like, well, we have to have, X, Y, and Z, but we're going to change it to mix it up like this. And it's like, no, to me, that's not the best way to make a game. It's also not the best way to make a game to say, well, we have our franchise, and this other franchise is doing this thing, so if we add this thing from that franchise to our franchise, then it'll be way better. So if they have vehicles and we add vehicles, it'll be way better. If they have leveling and we add leveling, it'll be way better. It's like, well, why don't we just think about what's good about our franchise and what's organic about our game and what makes our game good, and just make that better? I think that would be, I think that's what, someone like Grand Theft Auto does, right? Like, they don't sit around and go like, oh, well, what's Call of Duty doing right now? We need to add that to Grand Theft Auto. maybe in multiplayer, but I don't think Fallout does that. They just what's going to make the franchise better.
Well, and when you start by comparing yourself to, the leader, then you set yourself an artificial bar too that you've got to hit.
Well, you've got a bar, and you're also chasing a goal. You're not trying to do your own thing. You're trying to do what they did, and that's always, in my opinion, that's not a good idea.
And that's why, it's when I was saying, this looks, this has tenets of, this has a look of Half-Life, and it has
which that is a great thing. I will never turn that down.
Well, but it wasn't something that you said. It's something that came naturally from looking at it, and I think that's where the game kind of transcends into, okay, this is going to be a good game because somebody is thinking about this, and that's not even how I looked at it, and so okay, now the feedback is starting to be a lot more positive, and so that to me is why I think I see people in the chat room going, yeah, I'm going ahead and buying this game now. And so that's a testament to, maybe some of it is taking what happened with Takedown and kind of saying, all right, well, now I'm going to do, as you just said, now I'm going to do my game instead of doing game X. Now I'm going to do my game. Is that kind of where you were? Am I close?
Yeah, I think that's close. I think Takedown was. I definitely will call it my game, and it was definitely a measure of passion. It was just a lot of it was more limitations and missing out on things and not. I mean, one of the biggest challenges of Takedown was not recognizing the difference between a digital indie release and a AAA retail release, and not being able to say, like, hey, maybe we could hold on this for 3 weeks. It's coming out on Steam. Do we really need to ship it now? Could we wait 3 weeks and maybe just fix a couple of these things and make sure it's all good to go? And betas and things like that, and things that that you figure out when you're not in a a AAA, like, okay, it has to go to print in August so that it can be printed on disc and be in store by November, and then we'll have day one patch ready, kind of go. But it is kind of the same thing. It's like I guess what you're going for is, like, the difference is I'm letting Epsilon, in my opinion, being a little bit more organic. I'm not being as constrained by, I think, what was the spiritual successors, because I don't have Kickstarters. I don't have to say, well, I promise it's going to be like this. So people are like, well, is it like SWAT, or is it like Rainbow Six, or is it like Hidden and Dangerous, or is it like this? And I'm like, it's its own thing. It's doing its own thing.
And I think that's good. I mean, I see, Kickstarter. I Mighty Number 9 just keeps coming up in my head every time I think of Kickstarter, and a lot of
people about Mighty Number 9.
Yeah, and that's so. When I think of Kickstarter,
no matter how I took over. Never mind.
NDAs.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's nice. It's nice that this game is.
Or Clash. We could talk about Clash.
Oh yeah, or half the games that never make it.
Yes, that's the thing that made me mad. That's the thing that really gets me mad about Kickstarter, is that we met every single thing that we said we were going to do. We shipped all of our physical goods on time, ahead of time. We bought all our physical goods before we spent a penny on the game. We made all of our dates, and still it was just like the gaming press was just like, rape these guys, yeah. And it was just like, dude, like, all these other people, like, just, like, bailed and, like, went to Bermuda, and it, like, what the frick? Like, you just, like, destroyed me, and I did everything that I said I was going to do. I built a prototype, like, I got a publisher, I published the game, like, a game came out. Like, you cannot like it, but don't slaughter it because it was a Kickstarter project that you don't like.
Right. No, I understand that. So Bella just yelled out NDA in the chat. So
I'm so in trouble.
Well, so that I don't get in trouble, we have to talk about Hotel Blind.
Yes. Let's do that.
So, all right. So, Hotel Blind as a standard game is already out, correct?
Yes, on PC it is out on it's on Steam Early Access, not Steam Early Access. It's out on Steam right now for $1.99, so it's playable just on your regular PC. Min spec is about what is just the Unreal 4 min spec. It's listed on the site. We are currently working, hopefully very soon, to bring the virtual reality version, which we demoed at E3 at the Operations Supply Drop booth, to Steam, that you can play on your Vive, and then I hope shortly after that to the OSVR virtual reality as well.
The OSVR? Oh, Oculus.
No, OSVR is Razer's open source virtual reality. Oculus, as soon as you guys send me a dev kit, we can talk then. So
we'll get Mark on the phone and so. So, and the reason we bring up Hotel Blind is because the own lovely Bella Rise from Real Game Media, a partner of yours, right? I mean, you're part of RGM now too. You do the podcasting with them, and you're and I tell you, that's where one of the places I think I first saw you after. Getting back on YouTube was you did a couple of the developer workshops with her.
So Bella and her networks had the developer podcast where it was just kind of, a few developers get on and talk about the games industry, and I was talking with, oh gosh, I forgot his name, I'm so terrible. He has this great procedurally generated RTS game. Anyway, met him at E3, GDC, and anyway, had some great talks with some devs, and at first, kind of Bella invited me to do a few more kind of casts, and I did them. Just like on here, I can just talk, I can talk about games industry for like way too long, but asked me to be kind of a co-host as the kind of recurring game developer voice of, showing up and talking with various folks. And then that led into the her getting involved in the whole Blind Hotel thing.
Yeah, and so she's remind me who she is in that, because she will hurt me if I don't.
So Blind Hotel, so there's a whole story behind it, but which I can tell if you have time, but
absolutely.
Okay, so I'll just tell the story from.
Trust me, I'm not going to sleep, man. I'm up all night if you're up.
I'll start it from start to scratch. So Blind Hotel actually started as first it started as Hotel Blind, but I did a few beers when I made the logo and I made it backwards, so it became Blind Hotel. But it actually started as an article that I wrote for Gamma Sutra, and the article that I wrote for Gamma Sutra was, clickbaity title was 10 easy ways to make an independent game, or 10 easy ways to be an indie developer. And it was basically my original article was saying, like, it started from a Facebook post that I saw in like one of the indie game groups that was like, oh, I spent all this time writing this game design document and I have all these ideas, and it was kind of like Hotel Blind. That's what I said. Oh.
Right, she's not listening.
Hotel Blind. I thought that's what I said.
No, you said originally it was you had it reversed, and then you.
Yes. Okay. Anyway, so I wrote this article, and it was basically like, go buy a PC, get source software like Perforce or SourceSafe or something like that, get a backup, and then download an engine, and then start making games. And a bunch of people on Gamma Sutra were kind of really hostile to that. Like, oh, you need to really plan out your stuff and know what your game design is going to be, and you need to know your story and your characters and blah blah blah. And I was like, no, like, all these indies that want to make games, you just need to sit down and do it. Like, stop writing design documents for yourself. Like, why are you writing design documents for yourself? And so I was thinking about a game that I could quickly make, Excuse me, that Miller Lite is doing great.
You
I'm like
between
I'm
that
muting and burping.
between that and the 2-liter bottle match chugging.
But anyway, so I sat down and I happened that day to be. I had picked up my daughter from soccer. I was driving back. It was on a Sunday afternoon, and American or one of NPR's shows with Ira Glass, American Experience or something, was on the radio while I was driving home, and it was about this blind guy that was in a hotel, and he's actually in the credits of the game because he's actually what inspired the game, and about how he figured out how to navigate the hotel. And so I was like, that would be a really interesting game because I could make it very quickly, show people how to make a game from start to finish, like from basically I open the editor and I don't know anything to I'm actually making a game. And I could make this series of videos for a Gamma Sutra article. And originally that's what it was just going to be, was this Gamma Sutra article. But so I started making it, and then I started posting on like Twitter and on Gamma Sutra. I was like making jokes, like because in the game you're blind. So the game is like, if you remember when I talked about Epsilon, I had to talk about it for like 10 minutes to explain what it is. Hotel Blind is a simulator of you being a blind person in a hotel room. You have a certain amount of things that you need to do, and then you need to leave the room. That's it. So if you can imagine what that would look like if you're being blind in a hotel room, that's probably what it looks like. So you have to do things like call your spouse and work on your laptop, take a shower and brush your teeth and take sleep in your bed, and then you have to leave. So I kind of sat down and I made the game. It took about a week and a half, about 12 hours in real time. I recorded the whole thing. I put it up on Gamma Sutra in like 12 different YouTube videos. As kind of a fuck you to the people that said, well, you can't just sit down and make a game with no plan. Because I didn't plan anything out. I didn't write a design document. I just sat down and said, I don't know, I'm a blind guy in a hotel. This is going to be a game. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. I was just making it up as I went along. Like, oh, here's how I interact with objects. Oh, here's the keys. Here's how I'm going to do text. Here's how I'm going to do audio. I was just, like, figuring out every step along the way. And then I started getting people that were really interested in it. Like, people were responding to, the tweets of like, oh my gosh, that's really cool. And then like Ira Glass responded to it and was like, oh my. And then the guy that was in the interview on This American Life is the show on NPR, responded and was like, oh my gosh, someone's making a show about, or a video game about this interview that I did on NPR like 5 years ago. This is like the best thing ever in my life. And I was like, well, then he said that. And I was like, well, now I got to friggin' ship it because he's like all excited about it. And so anyway, so I shipped it on Steam. So it was all on PC. And then like a couple of weeks or a month later, I was doing an interview with NLG just talking about game development. And I was talking about that process. And Bella, is the host, not on NLG, I'm sorry, on Bella's show.
I was going to say, for a second, I'm like, wait a minute.
I get all the acronyms messed up. But anyway, she was asking.
EXL. That was back when she was EXL, right?
Yeah, EXL. And she was saying, like, well, one of the things, she checked it out, and she was saying, like, one of the things that took me out of the experience is I'm supposed to be blind, and I'm supposed to be simulating that I'm blind, but I'm interacting with the environment through text pop-ups, which I'm reading. So it's like breaking the experience for me.
Yeah.
And she had said, well, why don't you have like voice, like you could have either audio or voice? And I was like, well, audio is really hard, so how do you depict the difference between a bed and an end table and a counter and a couch versus audio, right? Like that's really challenging to do. Like, oh, you've walked into a couch, and here's the audio of what walking into a couch sounds like. And she's like, well, how about, voiceover? And I was like, well, that'd be cool, but my voiceover is really shitty. Like, I did the voiceover in Epsilon, and everybody's making fun of it. And she's like, well, I could do the voiceover. And I was like, oh, well, you have like a radio voice. That'd be perfect. So so she did the voiceover. So we implemented the voiceover into the PC version, which now is available on Steam. And then that's what enabled it to actually really work good on VR. Because text pop-ups in VR suck. They just totally blow all the immersion. And so having this, and also because I have it contextual audio based, so it's stereo sound. So it bases like if you hit something on your right side, it's talking on your right, and you can move to it. And I've got a bunch more stuff that's going to go in. But anyway, I mentioned that to a few of my friends at Unreal, and then all of a sudden a Vive was at my house, and then now I'm making a virtual reality version. So it's
Nice.
kind of insane. So something that turned into, and it's on sale on Steam. It's $1.99, which again, it has tons of negative reviews. $1.99, bitches. It was on Steam summer sale for like 70 cents, and people are still writing negative reviews. This is a game that doesn't have any graphics. How do you make a game without graphics? It's like, dude, it's a fucking blind simulator. You're blind. So yeah, that's game development.
Oh, good night, ladies and gentlemen. That's hilarious.
Next,
Wow.
I'm gonna make a death simulator, and people write negative reviews. Audio sucks in this game. I can't hear anything. I don't understand.
Oh my God! By the way, I love your Xbox Live bio. I can't give you Recon.
I can't give you
don't-
Recon. Please
please
don't
don't message me about it.
Oh my
You
God.
will not get any.
I will not respond.
I have not looked at that in so long.
Oh my God! And you have Peter Griffin as your.
Yes, I still have that. Yes.
Perfect.
So my Xbox Live profile, because I don't know if you remember back when Reach came out, everybody was, or maybe it was Halo 3 with the flaming heads. All the people were trying to hack all the Bungie accounts, and so, you know, when you go on your profile and it's like name, you know, first name, last name, address, phone number, email. My
Right.
actual profile says like, Bungie dev, do not support. Do not give out any information. Escalate to level 1 priority support. So like, if I ever lose my password for Xbox Live, I am screwed. Because like they were trying to spearfish like everybody, and they stole a couple people's accounts. But it was just like crazy because you're like, oh cool, I got this flaming head, and it was like boom, 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 message. So yeah, I don't think I've upgraded my my upgraded thing since then.
Yes, and it's just your gamer score needs some work. So you're playing with us. We're gonna get that. We're gonna get your gamer
come
score
on.
up.
Okay, here's the thing about the gamer score, and I actually got pissed. Because I interviewed at a game studio a few years ago, and they're like, "Why is your gamer score only 7,000 something?" And I was like, "What's your gamer score in Fallout 3?" And they're like, "Oh, like 400." And I was like, "I have 1,750, motherfucker. I have the complete gamer score for all of Fallout 3. So when you come back and talk to me, when you've completed all the achievements for Fallout 3 and all the DLC, then you can talk to me about why it took me a year and a half to do that. And then you can go play a bunch of bitchy arcade games and get a bunch of gamer score."
I
Owned.
love it.
Owned. Owned.
That's about it. Owned is a good word. No, people put so much emphasis on gamer score. It's so funny. I've been on Xbox Live for 11 years. I don't even think I've cracked 60,000 yet. I just, I play. Right, I play what 2-3 hours a night. That's about it. That's all I can get.
Yeah.
That's like me a week.
Well, you know what's funny about achievements? Like I know I bitched about achievements early on, and I have this thing with it. And if you Google Graw achievements, you'll see why. But one of the funny things that happened on Hotel Blind is that I made an achievement. There was, when it shipped for $1.99 on Steam, it had one achievement, and it was like beat one room, because the rooms randomly generate. Like every time you play, it's random. So it's not like you're playing the same room every single time. And so there was one achievement, and it was like beat a room, and I was like, for a $1.99 title, that's fine. That's an achievement. I can check the little box. And then about a month later, I was talking to someone, and they're like, well, maybe if you had more achievements, people would like it more. And I was like, okay. So I went in and I did all the work. I scripted it out. It's like, okay, you get one room, you get this achievement. You get 10 rooms, you get this achievement. 25 rooms, 50 rooms, 100 rooms. And I was like, cool, now I ordered 5 achievements, so people will be happy and they can have something to go for, like, oh, I want to get 100 achievements. All the achievement hunters were fucking pissed Because I guess on Steam you get a 100% completion bonus, and I just ruined their 100% completion bonus because I added like 5 achievements that then getting 100 hotel blind rooms at like 6 to 10 minutes a piece would take them like a long time, and they were really, really mad. And I got like 150 messages like within an hour, like, how? Oh my God! I only bought this game because it only had 1 achievement. I did it, and now you added more achievements, and I don't have the 100%. I was like, oh my God! I didn't know that was a thing. So I like deleted the achievements out and just left it as the one. I'm like, oh God! Please stop sending me like you're gonna come kill me because I added more achievements. Like I thought I was doing a good thing. And that's the thing with game development is that you just don't know sometimes.
Frankie, tell them what you think of achievements and trophies.
I back in my day when I cared about this stuff, I would actually avoid playing games like Ghost Recon that were going to be like impossible or like north of 60 hours. Is like, nope.
I'm going to show an admission right now. Now I want to preface this by saying I completed Graw. So
all of it?
I completed just the story because I didn't play
just the story.
multiplayer.
Oh, okay. So you don't have top player in the world on the leaderboards?
That is my achievements for. That is my gamer score for Graw. It is pathetic. But I still played the hell out of it. I just didn't get all the multiplayer and But I beat the game. I got that achievement.
There you go.
So, I don't put as much stock on achievements either. Gamer score, I don't. It's.
I'll tell you one thing, man. That Super Meat Boy achievement, I want to be the guy achievement. That took me 5 hours to do, like, alone, just to get past, like, I want to be the guy, and that just took me so long. I never gave up, and I eventually got it. I was like, that was the hardest achievement I've ever had to do.
You're better than me because I'd have given up on it. I'd have been like, you know what? That achievement can sit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the worst for me. So the two achievement stories I have are the Graw. I'm the first actual Xbox gamer to have a viral achievement on Xbox Live because it was either Graw or Graw 2. Must have been Graw. The viral achievement, the assassin achievement, was activated off of my gamer tag. So basically, when I went online, the first person that killed me, it gave it to me as soon as I logged on. And then the assassin achievement was given to, the way you got the assassin achievement was to kill a person that had the assassin achievement.
Gotcha.
So my gamer tag, basically, as soon as I logged on, it unlocked it for me, and then whoever killed me got it, and then whoever killed them got it, and then it went on and on and on.
Oh,
so that's going to be
mode.
Yeah. We were the first one. We were the very first viral achievement on Xbox Live. So that's going to actually be on my tombstone. Is like had first viral achievement on Xbox Live, because I am the only person on Earth that can claim that, and that's like really the only thing in my life that I can say that I'm the only person on Earth that did this. But I know that on Fallout 3 there was some brutal achievements that were, a lot of them were like the win everything as an evil person, and I had won everything as a good person, so then I had to go back to each level and like I'd load that level and then go kill a bunch of innocent people so that I could be evil, and then level up, and then like kill myself, and then load up the next level, and then go kill a bunch of innocent people so that I could level up as an evil person, and then I just had to keep doing that, and I was like, I feel really bad about murdering all these people, but I really need to get this, I need to get that badge of one game completely done.
That's too much for me. I'd be like, I'll be at 900 score to be all right.
Yeah, well, once I got to like 1350, it was kind of like it was foregone. I had to go all the way. Just to have one game that I had every achievement for that wasn't like an XBLA like 200 game.
I think the only recent game I've fully 1,000 pointed was Inside, which, by the way, if you have not played Inside, Christian, that is a flippin' phenomenal game.
I have heard very many good things about that. I need to check it out.
You do. That is a game to have. That is a game to have. You don't have it yet, Matt?
No, I am definitely getting it.
You've got Frankie,
So it is on. Is it on the Xbox?
Yeah.
Okay. XBLA.
No, it's
Or do you wanna buy
I mean, it's ID at Xbox. I mean,
Okay.
it's Playdead. It's the guys who did Limbo.
Oh, right. Yeah. Everybody's been talking about this on my Facebook.
Yeah, you need to
Oh,
get
it's on Xbone and Steam. I'll get it on Xbone because I'm lazy.
it.
Steam's too complicated.
Oh, all right. Everybody's gonna go nuts now because you said the word Xbone.
I will never stop using the word Xbone. I don't care. I don't care what you say, Charla and Major Nelson. Shouldn't have called it that.
Right. It's funny because when I see it, all I want to do is correct the capital letters.
I
Like,
know.
if you're gonna do it, then you at least make it grammatically correct.
I don't think I would have stuck with Xbone if it hadn't been for Dogs Sports TV, Dogs Sports TV Sports.
Not a fan of the reveal, were you?
That kind of just nailed the Xbone in with me. So no, that was not. I've kind of been a proponent of the let's pitch our gaming hardware to gamers, not to people that want to watch Price is Right at 2 p.m. on Wednesday. But hey, what do I know about shipping hardware?
Please kill that bastion.
Oh, that's funny. I don't know. We could have a whole conversation on 2013. It's been it's been a fun couple of years for while you've been hanging out in the PC scene. The Rome is burning on the console side.
Well, I know it's interesting, and this is where devs get spoiled because I get all the hardware for free. So I have an Xbox One, I have a PS4, but I didn't buy them. So it's just like, to me, it's just like, well, okay, well, do I want to play Dead Rising on Xbox or on PS4? It's just like I don't care. But then you see the messaging, and it's like, what is going on? Like, what's going on? But yeah, it's really interesting to see that, and it's going to be really interesting. I mean, the next few years. Someone was asking at the beginning of the show about console iteration.
Yeah, what do you think of that? There's a couple of things actually we'd love to get your opinion on. That's one of them.
Well, let's do that, and then I got to go to bed because it's getting late.
Yeah.
So. We've been on here for like 3 hours now.
We have, and I have enjoyed every friggin' minute of it.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Matt.
So, what are your thoughts on Team Sega going back to the roots and going for the 2D on Sonic Mania?
I've seen some things about that. I mean, I think to me that's a good approach because that's what everybody remembers and wants to play, and the Sonic IP has been so dormant for so long that if you can come back with a good even console or mobile experience for the Sonic IP, that's the way to bring it back, is to go back to its roots. And to me, that's when it fell apart, is when it moved away from its roots. And
the exception of Sonic Adventure for me. Like, those were awesome titles for me.
Well, see, I'm not that much of a dork, so I don't remember that kind of stuff.
Wait, you did not have a Dreamcast?
I did not have a Dreamcast.
You can't
Was
be
that
back
the
on
handheld one?
No!
What the handheld one?
What the hell? You're gonna make me grab the thing. No! So now I'm gonna hold it the rest of the time. Don't talk. It's okay.
No, we didn't have a Dreamcast. No, I had a SNES.
You have got to pick one. If you find one on eBay, get it.
I'm sure I can buy it at Goodwill for like $1. But I know when I was in the Marine Corps, the guy that had the handheld Sega, we used to pass that along as MPs to play in our cars when it was like really boring. But then one guy took it one of the gates, and he was playing it at the gate and waving people through while he was playing it, like in his hands. And some like general drove through while he's got like a gamepad, and this is like in '96. where it's like a big deal if you're sitting at a military police gate with like a gamepad in your hand at a secure facility, and he got in a lot of trouble.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
No, so iterative consoles. I mean, this is the thing now. I have two trains of thought on this, and then I want yours. I think that we're too soon. Even next year we're too soon, and these feel like apology consoles to me. So give me your thoughts.
We're talking about the 0.5 consoles, right?
Yeah,
like,
the Neo and the Scorpio.
the Neo and the Scorpio and
the Santa Maria.
And the S or yeah. My opinion is that maybe a little bit of apology, maybe a little bit of I think, in my opinion, and I can't give away my super awesomeness, but in my opinion, what it really is hedging time. So the developers don't know where they're going, or the console developers, and so they're kind of hedging their bets with, well, we're just going to make this 0.5, a step up on tech, maybe a step down on price. We'll just see where things are going, and I think that's what they're doing. And I think you've seen that in the past with slim versions, but I think because things are moving faster these days, maybe that's coming out faster, and that's why it feels kind of distasteful to gamers. Is that it's not 3 years later that a slim comes out; it's a year and a half later. If that makes sense.
No, that does. I mean, when these were being talked about, I mean, this E3 isn't even a full 3 years into the cycle, and here we are discussing new consoles.
Right.
I'm with you on this. I'm 100% with you on that. Yeah. So, all right. Bella is telling me you have to go.
Awesome. I have to go. I have an early appointment, I guess.
Yeah, you have an early appointment apparently. So,
Yeah,
yes, we have been on for what?
3 hours almost.
3 hours now. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I have to tell you. I mean, I feel I do. I've been typing this you've seen it in the chat. I'm like, guys, jump in because otherwise I'm just gonna keep my excitement level to you really have brought some great insight and information to us tonight. I mean, this is easily one of my favorite moments of the year. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight. I really do.
Well, I definitely, again, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to gamers. I think one of the problems in our industry is that we don't get the opportunity as game developers enough to just go out and talk to gamers and, really get that feeling of, what they're interested in and what they're thinking. And it's just kind of a rare opportunity to just be able to sit and chit-chat for a few hours about games. And it's not about PR, and it's not about selling something. And yes, you can go to www.serellan.com or follow me at Serellan, or check us Epsilon out on Steam, or check out Hotel Blind out on Steam, and all those cool PR things. That's all good. But really what you want to do is just talk to gamers and talk about games. So.
Yeah, and
Amen.
I tell you, yeah, and one day, you are, as I do with all of my guests, you are open invitation. Anytime you want to come on and just chat. It doesn't even have to, at this point, it doesn't even have to be about Serellan. It could just be, come on and just shoot the gaming breeze with us. Anytime you see us in a Xbox party, just jump in. Just if we're playing Halo, just jump in. Even if we're playing anything else, the Division. You got the Division? I'll play Division.
No, well, see, here's the thing about Division is all my friends that are playing Division are playing it on PS4. And so they keep trying to get me to play it on the PS4 edition, but the copy that I have is on Xbox One. So because all my Bungie buddies got it for free on because all the Activision people got it for them on PS4. So
of course,
this is the problem when you work in the games industry is you have this divide where your Bungie buddies want to do one thing and your Ubisoft buddies want to do another, and you're
Yeah.
like, come on, people, why can't we all get along and just agree to play on the same platform and just
Right. Well, you know what? Enrique and I have the Xbox version, so you are welcome at any time.
all right,
So,
cool.
yeah, we got a game. That's all there is to it. We've got a game.
Well, Bella says we have to play Destiny, but
No.
I
No.
refuse to play Destiny, and I'm going to send it to him until Jonty Barnes sends me a copy of Destiny on Xbox Live. I want a free copy.
I'm sorry.
Not gonna buy
I've got a game like that. It's called Halo. I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. No, I always joke that Bungie left Microsoft because they didn't want to make Halo anymore, and then they went to Activision and made Halo.
No comment on that one.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, Christian, it has been an absolute pleasure. And you're welcome back anytime that you want. You don't even have to just say, "Hey, man, I hear you're podcasting tonight. Let me in." And that's all there is to it.
All right, gents. Well, have a good night, and happy to talk to you gamers. Thanks to the people that signed into the podcast, the people that were commenting, and please feel free to come, Serellan.com, follow me on Twitter, and we can talk about games.
Absolutely. Christian, have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon.
Cool. Thank you, gents.
All right. Good night, sir.
Thank you.
Good night.
Man, that was fantastic.
That was awesome.
That was great.
That
I just don't have anything to say because he's just so fascinating to listen to, you know?
Yeah,
He was.
I was like all ears.
Well, I just didn't want to. I didn't want to feel like I was monopolizing the conversation. That's all. I mean, I wanted people to jump in and ask him questions and stuff. I just, that was an exciting thing for me. I mean, it's been a long time since I've sat down with a developer. It's been probably almost a decade, and so, to be able to have somebody on that really, like I said, was part of my gaming, kind of 20s and 30s. That was huge. So we really appreciate Christian Allen for being on tonight, and I'll make sure the links to everything are in the description for Serellan, for him on Twitter, for Epsilon to get early access. It's $8, people. $8. I think
you can't pass up a game for $8. It's just not. It's just not possible.
And especially since it's going to be more expensive later.
Right. Yeah.
So
the one benefit of early access.
Yeah.
It's like you're a game tester.
Yeah, kind of a little bit.
Exactly what it is.
Yeah, a little bit. So thank you, Bella, for helping get this set up. And she kept them on track for tonight, and I'm just telling her in the chat room. And the guys in the chat room, of course, thank you. You guys are always wonderful. So I need to, before we wrap up, do you guys have anything non-Serellan related you wanted to bring up before we wrap up?
Nothing really except Sonic Mania. I mean, that was the big news last week, and I just had to bring it up.
Yeah, Dude, I marked out when I saw the trailers for it. So, yeah, it's all Next week we'll get back to our normal news talk, and then I got some irons in the fire for us, guys. Let's put it that way.
Nice.
Cool.
I do. So, Frankie, anything of note going on?
No, I restarted Deus Ex: Human Revolution.
Nice.
So seems to build up pretty well. I feel like I'm actually. I don't know if it's because I played it on the PS3 and the DualShock 3 sucked, because a lot of that game is using the triggers, and the triggers on that controller are garbage. But playing it on Xbox One right now, and that game feels a lot more comfortable, and I feel like it held up really well. So
awesome.
That's all I've been digging into.
What are you playing right now, Matt? I didn't look on Xbox Live. What are you playing?
Overwatch.
Of course. So, all right. So I need to give a whole bunch of shout-outs. I don't know. I mean, guys, the last, I'd have to say, nearly month has been such a humbling experience for me. And Frankie, a month ago, you know, it was just kind of you and me when you could jump in from driving home from work.
Yeah, totally not chatting and driving.
Totally not chatting and driving at all.
Don't do it.
We're trying to make some videos for the YouTube channel, but not really doing a lot as much as I wanted to. Fast forward to today. I got you fine gentlemen here on the podcast with me, and an entire team that has just everybody's come up to me and said, "Hey, we want to be part of NLG. So what can we do?" I want to give a shout out to Joe Hornung. I think that's how he's never said how his last name is pronounced. So I'm going to say Hornung for now until he corrects me. Who has, just literally, he's Western Drake 20 at ThisGuy93 on Twitter. He has absolutely taken over the chat channel or the Twitch channel for us and streaming, and brought together. He's in the chat room now. HTK, Peter, who is a wonderful friend, and Jason Wickman, Modzu, and they've become the NLG stream team, and those guys are they're just bringing content to us left and right. We got Crazy One, who has done he's done now multiple great walkthroughs. He's got some fantastic Kerbal Space Program videos that are already over 12 to 1,500 views. He's doing an awesome walkthrough of Crimson Skies right now, an old OG Xbox game from 2003, and he did an entire NASCAR expansion thing for us. Joe actually, here I am. I'm pointing again. Joe's in the middle of not only doing a lot of Halo streaming and a lot of tonight he did Overwatch before, but he's been doing Red Dead Redemption, and he's been doing a fantastic story mode walkthrough, which is up on the channel as well. So I am inundated with fantastic people around me. So I step back, and then I've got Jay Williams, Graphic God, who not only has made our new logos, but everything you see on the screen right now is his. The Next Level Gaming logo, the little the NLG thing you see on the left, this entire overlay graphic. De Niro, who said, "Hey, I wanted to make you a Sharknado ad," and sure enough, there's that thing, and it's so cool. We're going to use that at the end of the podcast video, and I wanted to make sure you guys were part of the podcast intro, since that's these guys, and you, Frankie, I saw your Twitter profile. You listed us in there. Peter and Joe and Juan and Madzu, they've all got NLG in their Twitter handles now. I am blown away, just 100% blown away with the love and content, and I can't I can't get enough. I can't be humble enough. And actually, yeah, he's saying don't forget to shout out his Twitch channel. So he also, he wants to stream so much, Joe, that he opened up his own channel at Western Drake 20, so that in case Matt wanted to stream something, or I wanted to stream something, or HT or Mods who wanted to stream something, he could still stream for NLG, but we'd have a second channel open, and we could do multi streams and all kinds of crap. This is how these guys are. This is the dedication they're showing. I just cannot enough say how much I love all of you guys, every single friggin' one of you. So I'm just nights like this, I'm just overjoyed to be doing this and to have you guys around. So yeah. All right, mushy stuff over.
Yay!
Oh, come on.
My favorite.
I know. It's like esports.
Yeah.
So,
Way to ruin the moment. Look at Matt, just kicking back.
I know, man. Chugging the 2-liter, playing Overwatch. He's just not even. He's like chill.
Yeah, I'm just chilling like a villain right now.
All right. So once again, thank you, Christian. Thank you, Frankie. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, everybody in the chat room. I'm typing. He said goodnight, all, and I'm saying thank you so much. And all right, like and subscribe, of course. You know, we gentlemen, we hit the 500 mark, so now it's on to the
1,000.
next. Yep, it's on to the 1,000 mark. So, you know, if you already are subscribed, tell a friend, and don't forget, we'll be back here next Sunday night, 10 o'clock. Same bat time, same bat channel, same bat crew. Actually, you won't be here next week.
I will not.
You will not. You've got.
I'll be trapped.
You will be trapped, trapped in an open house. So
Yep.
we'll see who wants to come sub for you. But after that, it's back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
And so, thank you guys so much. Thank you, chat room. And as I always say, everybody have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you here next Sunday. And play on, gamers.